Here we are, episode 23, Checked Out, Retail Stories Podcast. You know, usually we talk about a variety of issues, and we are going to throw in some variety. But today, Doug, we are talking about a much bigger picture item.
Guys, I'm super excited today. We're stepping out of our normal Al 5 kind of lifestyle and going right to the cosmos to talk to our guest today, Neil Cornish, about the cosmos, gravity waves, and a bunch of other cool stuff. And we're going to myth bust some things.
And, you know, we're going to make the connection. Who would think we did it? We're going to make the connection between the retail universe and the universe in today's episode. So where are you going to get that as a viewer? We see retail and the universe collide, and it's going to be great.
And guys, while you're traveling the cosmos, we're super excited. We're going to talk about the commuting lifestyles of those in Philadelphia, the amazing, amazing retail history of Erie, Pennsylvania. And we can't forget, we're going to talk about the Kmart down under in Australia.
We're also talking about meat-heavy, nutrient-rich customers just looking for what we're selling, so it's a good time to be in our business. We're also talking about what's in the bag, and of course, the corporate word of the week.
Guys, it's funny. Sorry, I was taking a drink there. It's funny. Every time you say what's in the bag, I think of the movie Seven. What's in the box? What's in the box, man?
Don't open the box.
What's in the box?
Don't open the box.
But we're going to find out what's in the bag today. But it's also going to be a fascinating conversation as we bridge all those subject guys, and we're super excited about going from the stars down to the shelves. But guys, let's dive in. But before we do that, every good partner needs a partner like Pennsylvania Skill Alliance, who are representing genuine Pennsylvania skill games powered by Pace Market across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, guys, helping small fraternal orders, small groups, small businesses, restaurants and bars keep the doors open, keep the lights on every day. Big shout out to them. For more information, paskilllines.org. And remember, guys, it's skill, not luck. Baby.
Skill, not luck, baby. Man, I'll tell you, this is a great week, Doug. It's a great week. We have a great guest. Keep getting great guests on the cast. It's just really cool how many people just want to talk and want to share their opinions with our fans, our followers, and we've had a lot of great conversations. But this week, I got to tell my story. It just happened. The logo redo.
I can't wait. Before you get into that, though, I told you I switched what my contents are in the Pennsylvania Skill Cup.
Yeah.
You know where I went from?
I think you told me, but I was frankly looking over, what we're going to talk about today, so I might not have paid attention as much as I should have.
I went from regular water to coffee to Cali water.
Oh, you got the Cali water in there.
Refreshing.
Why do we get a pallet of that on the floor?
Woo.
2 for $4.
I'm telling you guys, once you had your first Cali water, you can be able to do a podcast. But no, it's funny.
It is great.
Set us up. So this morning I'm there. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the store doing paperwork, and I get a notification on Facebook that somebody changed our main logo, without calling us on the Facebook page.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was me. Everybody out there, let's face it, we as humans, we've talked about this in the cast. We all have our, I don't know what you want to call them. I don't even know what to call them. I look at it as it's a challenge. Everybody's got their mental challenge, mental or physical challenge in this world. I tell the kids all the time, Colt and Cam, I'll tell Char the same thing. Everybody's got something they're trying to work on or trying to overcome. Now, for me, it's anxiety. I mean, I've always had anxiety. I've always had panic and anxiety. I didn't know what it was till I was about 30, 32 maybe, but before that, it was just this thing that happened to me, and I just had to kind of muscle through it. But, for those out there that suffer from panic and anxiety disorders, you can relate to this. So, last night, it was my weekend off. I'm having a good time with the family at the mall, and we go to a Mexican restaurant. I'm there feeling, it's a nice festive environment. Brian, she gets a club soda, orders a club soda. So, hey, it's a Sunday, why not get the margarita? So I get this margarita, real fruity margarita, probably like 500 grams of sugar. Yeah. So I drink this margarita, and it actually wasn't a strong margarita, which actually was good because it was a Sunday. I wasn't looking to I was just looking to have a festive drink. So we get home, and Bran goes to Saxonburg, stops at Saxonburg on the way home, gets little pints of ice cream, 4 pints of ice cream, different pints of ice cream. It was great. I haven't had ice cream in a while. So everybody, spoons out there, share, whatever. And I mean, I just was feeling snacky. I was just, I'm a big ice cream eater. I mean, I love ice cream. I finish every one of them. All 4. So I don't know. What do we think? It's 2 pints?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of ice cream.
So you mix all that sugar. I mean, between those 2 situations, I may have had, is it safe to say I may have had 1,000 grams of sugar?
Could be. I'm not a dietitian.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
There's a lot of sugar. Considering one Coca-Cola is 85 grams of sugar, which is unbelievable.
Plus the alcohol.
Yeah. So all that, and then you and I'd come off a week where we were going on short sleep most of the week. I really only had 1 solid night's sleep, and that was Saturday into Sunday. So, I mean, all the perfect storm was there. I've learned with my body to regulate anxiety, working out, proper diet, proper sleep. It's proper hydration is the key. So if you think about everything I just told you, it all went out the window. So 2:00 in the morning, I'm having this bad dream. I don't even remember the bad dream. Somebody was trying to get into the house. That was part of it. It was terrifying. I wake up from this bad dream. Heart's racing. Thoughts are racing. Felt like I was having a heart attack. Panic attack. Took me 2 hours to come down off the panic attack. So I didn't get to sleep till like 4:30 in the morning. I had to get up at 5:30. But here's the thing. While I was having the panic attack, sometimes a great thing can happen from panic attacks. I started thinking, wild thoughts, racing thoughts. For some reason, the logo comes on the scroll, my scroll. And it's been kind of bothering me, but like, I don't know. I just let it go and we just whatever. I mean, it's a very nice logo. They did a good job of designing it. And I mean, I love it overall. But one thing that I think is wild for me is, and maybe I've lost some weight. I don't know, but like, it looks like I've been in mourning for 2 years there, sitting in the bar, pounding Cheetos every night, wiping them off my chest in the morning, It looks like I've pretty much let myself go in this picture, And so I'm like, whoa. And this is actually the better of the 2 as far as the face. Everything else is cool. So anyways, I'm like, man, I got to fix this because we have hats being made. We have coffee, private label coffee being made. Checked out Podcast Coffee. So it hit me in I'm going through this anxiety panic. But while that's happening, I'm thinking, oh, I got to stop this. So the 2 things were just, so I went into chat, whipped up a rough draft that we ended up cutting down pretty good. But like from your perspective, you'd have been like, whoa, what is happening?
No. I like the word enabling is the word of the week because yes, during a panic attack is the perfect time to make major business decisions, such as what is our customer forward-facing logo? And you know what? I'm going to change it to make this feel better before consulting anybody in my circle.
I apologize. I probably should have but
Apologize. I woke up at 6:00 and ding. I'm like, and so what I do, I text Mac. Hey, Mac, did somebody change our corporate logo? She's like, I didn't do it. And then Ryan's like, oh, funny story. It was me. And meanwhile, by the time I said that, I'm like, do you realize, just so you realize, how much work goes into a logo? And you're like this, nah, it's fine. We'll keep it. Blah, blah. I'm like, no. Website encoding. All of our editing has a certain logo. And then it has this logo. Our shirts currently have this logo. Our cards have this logo. Thousands of dollars and the old logo. And he's like, I know, but you know what? It makes me feel so better. And I'm like, Ryan, I'm going to send you something. So if you don't remember, I sent you a picture of a medieval rendition of a character of a modern person. I'm like, do you think King Edward III got pissed off when he saw this in the Bible? No.
Well, he was probably dead when it came out, to be fair. So he didn't have a chance to defend himself.
He was still alive. He was still kicking like chicken.
Yeah.
My God, if that was your case, you're like this. You know what?
People would have been losing heads. The guillotine would have been. The guillotine operator would have been on double time. I can tell you that much.
Everybody's going to die.
Like there would have been heads rolling. No, but here's the thing. We took a great thing and we enhanced it. We made it more realistic, but still funny. It's funny enough, caricature enough, and but it represents us. It represents us more. And this was a great starting point. And then my panic and anxiety attack led to kicking out the rough draft. We went back and forth between us, some advisors, aka family, and some associates, and we came up with what I think is a good final version representation of our madness.
Just so we're clear, mine looks exactly the same.
That is not true.
It looks exactly the same.
It's much more chiseled.
No.
It's much more regal.
He spent 15 hours on himself, things like this.
It's taller.
I better do something for Doug just to make sure that
you're taller.
That's what guys are thinking about me.
Look at the before and after. I mean, mine definitely, but mine needed a lot more tweaking. This actually looks more like Doug. I mean, he looks good there.
So yeah, Ryan, I'm glad you you use your propensity for stress to help push us forward. Do you feel better now, though?
I do. I think it's a much better representation, and I think, but I think it's cool because it kept the core, the circles there, the actual logo, the checked out Retail Stories podcast. I think that represents us. It's our colors. It's kind of the color scheme we've had in the stores, and it's a good comfort level, and it just looks really good. So it's clean. It's just updated to be more realistic. So yeah, I do. I feel good. I think it's going to be good.
It's also realistic.
Huh.
The expectations of this week's Retail Stereotype of the Week. The Manager Seeker. The Manager Seeker, also known as the escalator, is the customer that shops the store that instantaneously, no matter if it's a minor infraction, it could be a penny off on a price, it could be the apples aren't the perfect texture, it could be whatever, escalated to the manager right away.
Yeah, it's always this high tension, high stress situation, but it always comes from a calm. It's always like people are just at register talking about maybe the game Friday night or whatever, the upcoming, community event. And then somebody just similar to me getting triggered by a logo, somebody all of a sudden has something. Oh my, they see something wrong, they see it wrong. And boom, it goes from just this calm, nice, whatever to like, you're on the defensive now. You got the deflector shield up. I mean, cause they want blood.
Oh yeah. And then they go to the manager. The manager comes out of the back room. Like, he's sweaty. He knows something's up, and he knows it's always the same customer. And so he goes up there, or she goes up there, and the customers. Speaking of which, you see the manager that got in a fist fight with the lady at the McDonald's, one of the restaurants. The lady threw ice in her face and got in a fist fight. It's crazy.
Wow.
But anyway, she handled it inappropriately. But anyway, back to the shopper.
The manager got in a fist fight with a customer.
Yeah. Well, technically, the customer threw her undergarments and ice in her face, but it got a little crazy. Wow. So anyway, it's funny also, and they always have like their evidence, their body of evidence, their circle of evidence, which is always like expired coupon, a sales planner from another store. It's not even your store. You promised the price match. No, we didn't. Like all these things, but then they escalate to the ninth level and they start using their voice and intention of voice and level of volume to get what they want. Cause they know if they put enough pressure, it's not worth that $1.99 for you.
Yeah, sneak peek at a press. We'll say press. They're pressing. But, I mean, it's always the same thing, to your point. Usually their arms are folded. They get like a little bit of a semi-aggressive, like somewhat of a boxing stance. Usually you got one foot in front of the other, staggered. They're ready to stand ground. They get the scowl going, whatever that look is, that like their version of like a Clint Eastwood desk there. And then, if they see it's not working out, just keep escalating the volume until they get what they want.
And I play it off. When I'm in the store with you and that happens, if I walk up and the customer is in this body formation, this is like, I'm not dealing with you kind of formation, No, I go up like this. Oh, I'm sorry. I work in stock department. I got to get my brother. Ryan, to the front, please. Customer service. Ryan, to the front, please. Customer service. And I sit back and watch the fireworks.
And depending on the tone I hear, I decide whether I want to go to the front or whether I just want to be working on something very important. And sorry I didn't hear the intercom. So, the games, the little games we play. The true prize, though, Doug, let's face it, what they're looking for is the override. They're looking for, they want to be right. You know, the money, the $2.50 or whatever, the person being fired, whatever it is they're after, the goal of what they're trying to do, the altercation, the goal of it is not necessarily what you would think. Most of the time it's just, they want whatever they think is right and whatever they think should happen to happen. It could be 30 cents. Doesn't matter. It's the principle. And that person usually is not going to back down until it gets there.
Well, a therapist used to tell me they want validated. Validation is what they want.
Look at you. That $40 an hour is paying off.
You know what, though? It's a lot cheaper to hire an attorney. He always says you're right, and it's a lot cheaper and less sessions.
What attorney do you have, man? I'm in the middle of a battle. I'm about 3 deep in a battle right now, and I've lost it so far.
First off, if that was a battle with your therapist, it'd be 6 years, and you'd find the answer is really your fault the whole time.
Yeah, but at least that's 6 years at $40 a week. I can deal with $40 a week.
Valid point.
One thing about attorneys, if I'm at a social event and I'm saying hi to them and talking to them shop, that's great. But if 2 words when it comes to attorneys, billable hours are involved, run.
That's why you need to start going to
No. I'm done doing attorneys.
No, go more events with your attorney. That way you get free hours.
No. I like my attorney. But you know what? Whether you like an attorney, the attorneys I like, they're all great as long as there's no billable hours involving me involved. They're all great. Do your thing. I just gotta. They all get their meat hooks on you. You just gotta get their meat hooks off. No offense, because I do. Like I said, I do like my attorney. I like all the attorneys. I do. I don't have a problem with them. I just as long as arm's length.
And that leads us to origin story. Dad's commute compared to the modern person in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ryan, tell us about Father's wild 2.5-year commute to Leechburg.
Well, I mean, it was unbelievable looking back, but it came from a necessity. I mean, when we moved back from Wisconsin when we were like, I was 16, you were 10. You know, Dad had achieved the corporate dream. I mean, he had got up. He was 1 or 2 clicks away from president of a division. He's making good money. He had good perks, but he didn't like living in Wisconsin. He didn't like moving away from his family. He didn't like living away from Pennsylvania. So he took a 50% pay cut we've talked about before, came back, and Mom got a job at a car dealership, helping them work on deals, doing a variety of things for them. She was even a repo woman one time, fun fact. But she did a ton of things for them. But when he came back, he took a lesser role as a retail counselor and, made some good connections from there. But along the way, he and Mom achieved one of their dreams. They bought that 11 acres. It was an old, very worn little farmhouse, but a nice barn and a nice 11 acres. And when they bought it, I think they had the intention of eventually, redoing the house because it needed redone. So, but they bought it and they had it.
Wait, redone? Needed bulldozed.
Well, it probably did. It was worn, but the 11 acres was magical on a hillside. I mean, it was very nice. But that was kind of their dream, was to get that. So they got that piece. But then after getting that piece, the opportunity to buy the stores came up. And so they took advantage of that opportunity and bought the stores. Is that your phone?
No.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Doug is always busting me about. He says it like 4 times before every episode. Is everything on mute? Is everything on mute? Did you check your phone? Did you check? And this is the second time. that I've heard a buzzing or a ringing that hasn't been mine.
Fine, you tell my wife not to call me.
But anyways, no, you know, she can call you anytime. But I mean, you know, you should. Hey, you know, you tell me, have it on mute.
Remember the thrill of your first childhood game, maybe tic-tac-toe? Genuine Pennsylvania Skill Games recaptures that excitement, offering easy-to-play, win-every-time experiences at your favorite local spots. Imagine a game where a little skill consistently turns credits into cash prizes, a game you can enjoy with others and even help them win. No need to just imagine. Genuine Pennsylvania Skill Games, championed by the PA Skill Alliance, are real. Go to paskillalliance.org for more information.
But so his dad had them traveling how long?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he buys the stores. Mom and dad buy the stores. Mom's doing the accounting and the behind the scenes stuff, you know, payroll, all that kind of stuff from home. So she didn't have to drive out and back. But dad was operations guy. He was running the store, you know, and so he had to be there. The stores were 2 hours away from their dream farmette that they bought. So he made the decision, I don't want to give up this piece of ground. I'm just going to drive. So for almost 3 years, and I was involved with this a lot. You were involved some, but you were still so young. But, you know, coming home from my senior year of high school and then coming home from college, working there in the weekends and stuff, you would get up and drive 2 hours to and from work every single day just to get to work. And there was 10 hours of work. So it was a wild period.
Well, it's funny because people call that super commuting. Anything over 75 miles one way is super commuters. And, you know, with that, you know, making that commitment for the family, which is very honorable, awesome. And that's why we're here today talking to you guys. You know, we're seeing that, you know, in Philadelphia with the increased cost of New York City and New York City being, you know, 75 miles away, that people are now living in Philadelphia where the rent's cheaper, the cost of living, less taxes, and then commuting to New York City for their jobs. That way they can still show a Philadelphia address and lower taxes. So, you know, that's part of that, you know, and since COVID has increased by over 28%. Since COVID, people are now traveling that far a couple of times a week to Manhattan from Philadelphia. And interesting fact about Philadelphia, over 40% of the people in Philadelphia work outside the city. So it's almost reverse commuting, where Pittsburgh's almost the opposite, where you have all these people in the suburbs going to the city, going to this metropolitan areas, working, then coming home. Philadelphia is the reverse.
That is wild because it's exact opposite in Pittsburgh. I mean, we see it, you know, whenever you go to a baseball game, you don't hit much traffic until you get close, but you can see it jammed up on the other side coming up 28 out of the city. Everybody goes down to the city, then they work, then they come home. And it's funny that it's the opposite in Philadelphia.
And it's also, I know you're going to talk about the bicycles, but it's also 800,000 people use the public transportation in Philadelphia. So people don't realize the largest hub for public transportation in Pennsylvania is actually Philadelphia. So when you see all this, you know, public transportation conversation, yeah, Pittsburgh has a little bit. We have the T, we have some buses, but Philadelphia is the powerhouse and the most expensive upkeep for public transportation in Pennsylvania.
It makes sense. It's the highest per capita rate of bicycle usage out of the 10 largest metropolitan cities. And it's not surprising because, I mean, it's relatively flat. There's a lot of great trails. You know, you got the rivers, you got all kinds of just cool topography, but it's relatively flat and easy to ride. And, you know, you can kill two birds with one stone. You can get your workout in and avoid the hustle and the bustle and the backup.
I think everybody's inspired by Rocky. They get home and they punch a bunch of cow meat, and then they're like, "I'm going to run through the city and run up the steps."
But they can't run. That makes sense in the Viking because they want to be Rocky, but they can't run 12 miles while shadow boxing along the way and stopping to knock some cattle, you know, bones and running up those steps. Have you ever ran up the steps?
I know. I looked for the elevator.
I ran it one time.
Oh, you ran it?
Yeah. I ran the Rocky steps one time. I mean, I didn't run 12 miles beforehand. I literally just ran up the stairs. But I mean, it was a reminder at the time that I needed to work on cardio a little bit.
Well,
it'll get you. I mean, your heart. I would caution people that aren't in decent, at least somewhat physical condition not to run those steps because it's brutal. It seems like you're never going to get there.
Well, Philadelphia is used to commuting. I mean, if you look at the national average, right now they're about 6 minutes longer commuting than anywhere else in the United States. So it's a big commuting thing. A lot of good stuff happened in Philadelphia. It's kind of cool. We wrapped in Philadelphia the first time in this episode.
I like it, yeah. And the average commute is 31 minutes. That's a long average commute. I feel. I mean, you and I's average commute when we go to other stores is 25 to 30 minutes, and it's a pretty good size commute. But for people in Philadelphia, it's pretty close proximity. That's a long time to be jammed up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta go where the money is and the opportunity. So that's Philadelphia.
Well, it's time for boom. This week in retail history with Doug.
The legend of the Erie Boston store. So back in the turn of the early 1885, a man by the name of Elijah H. Mack bought a bankrupt dry goods shop in Erie and transformed it into the regional powerhouse known as the Boston store. At the time, Boston was like this mecca center for everything from fashion to like shopping experience. Kind of still is actually for a lot of things, but Boston was like the metropolitan area, and Elijah saw this opportunity. He bought this place, and in 1931 for $2 million in that time, which is insane money. Remade into this Art Deco platform with this crazy 40-foot tall clock that's four-sided where people used to meet under, and allowed basically change the entire skyline of Erie as we know it today. And it still sits today, but it's no longer a department store. It's now a residential area.
And you know what? They were huge with billboard marketing. They were ahead of their time. They had 15 massive billboards between Erie and Boston, which at the time was unheard of. And it's funny, like the guy, I don't even know if we told the story yet, but the guy shooting the guy in the Erie store and then going to Boston. But I wonder if he followed those signs. That's how he got to Boston.
I hope he didn't use the signs to help commit crime, but no, it's crazy. And then also, to Ryan's point, they had custom mile markers that would say, from like instance, they had one in St. Paul, Minnesota, said 932 miles to the Boston store. It was a huge deal. It was way ahead of its time. And unlike, we talked about the malls of the past, and we talk about malls as far as it's kind of going out of style. The mall is what kind of put him out of business, as the Mill Creek Mall. In 1979, put him out of business, but it became a National Registry for Historic Places. And still keeps a part of the Erie skyline today.
We used to call near Huntington, where I grew up. You grew up too. There was a little town called Mill Creek, and there was this like little bar there that had some convenience store items, and that was the Mill Creek Mall. So it's a little different than this mall. But what a great idea! Teasing people from Erie to Boston. You're only this many miles from. This many miles from, this many miles from. That's a cool idea. You wonder if we applied that to the stores and like just took like an exit of 28. You're this many miles from Sprankle's Katanning. You're this many miles from Sprankle's Leechburg. You're this many miles from Sprankle's Saxonburg. And just tease with maybe two more signs along the way. You wonder if there's any value to that.
We try it. They did that out in South Dakota, remember? The guy had the fire trucks in South Dakota, and we're like, where the heck is this store? And literally, it was like 300 miles of fire trucks, and all of a sudden, boom! It was like a coffee shop and like junk store, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it closed right before I was born, 1979, so I missed it. But at least we have the story, right? And we still
have the clock tower in Erie. Next time out there, we see it. We got the Erie, get to look at it.
We'll have to get a picture and post it on the cast page so that everybody can see it. Now it's time for. Corporate word of the week is press, as in the verb to press.
The grips.
Yeah, the exact definition of press in corporate terms in the dictionary is applying force or talking to the media. In our world, it's the ultimate checked out multi-tool for urgency, resilience, or going after a sales goal like it's the last case of water before a blizzard. And to press, I got this word again off of Bran. She's in the corporate world. And, the way it's used is, they might be having a meeting. We might be having a meeting, and they'll be saying like, "Oh, they haven't bought in 3 months." Well, maybe that particular store they're trying to sell water to is run by a brokerage firm that they're paying as a brokerage firm to handle that business for them. Well, you need to press the broker on that. You need to press the broker on that and see why the numbers are down. Some people might say, get on it, or, get her done. But guess what? No, in corporate terms, you can't, maybe you can get away with that kind of stuff. Or let's get this, whatever, whatever tone your particular company goes with. But in corporate terms, the correct way of saying, hey, we need action. This needs to happen. You need to press that. You need to press him. You need to press them.
Well, it's funny. It's like you're a sports guy. It's like the full court press of basketball. You're losing the game. You're looking up the scoreboard. The cheerleaders stopped cheering about 5 minutes ago. The fans are getting popcorn. It's time to press. And it's funny because, like, when I think of the word press in the corporate industry, I think of the reverse. I think of, like, let's face it, we're always doing reviews and stuff like that. And every once in a while, I'll not forget, but I'll have a schedule and I'll push out a review, and that person will start pressing me by calling off and saying, "Oh, how about that review?" And you're like, "Well, I need you to show up if I can give you a review." But press, it's to put pressure on whether or not you like it or not. They pressure you to making decisions. And actually, sometimes it works out really good for me because I have to say, well,
Well, we see it all the time too. Let's face it, with like vendors, and there's an art to pressing, because sometimes if it's the right person and the right salesman, or maybe internally, or like in our accounting world, people are trying to get information from us, press for information that, to be fair, we're usually, late on, but, so we owe them the information, but they're pressing us. And depending on how they press us, it can create a great interaction, or they're pressing the wrong hamster cage at the wrong time, and the little hamster, being you or I, comes out biting. So there's an art to how you press. The need for the press is usually not negotiated. There's always a need. If they're being pressed, it's because there's a need. But how they proceed with the press, usually, in my opinion, goes a long way to determining the results for the company that's calling for the press.
This is just a general PSA for all people out there who try to press Ryan, or mostly Ryan, though. If a man can be influenced by imaginary sugar monsters that cause him to have a panic attack and change his entire branding overnight, that's probably not the guy you want to press.
No.
Imaginary sugar monsters are like this. Hey, Ryan, you're like this. You know what? You did press me. Now it's time to change the entire logo and platform today.
That's exactly what it was too, man. It was imaginary sugar monsters taking over my brain and causing me to see things maybe the way they, some cases maybe the correct way, some cases maybe not, but I really couldn't trust anything at the time because the sugar monsters were taking over my brain.
Well, guys, you're not going to need any sugar monsters for our next guest. We have renowned astrophysicist Neil Cornish. He's going to take us to the cosmos and back and help us myth bust some crazy conceptions out there. Can't wait. Up next, guys.
PA Skill players seek genuine PA Skill games. How can you tell the real from the imitation? The PA Skill Alliance offers a 4-step identification process to help you find genuine PA Skill games. 1. Check for logos. Does the machine display official Pennsylvania Skill Game logos? 2. Look for Powered by Pacematic. Is it Powered by Pacematic visible on the game's case? 3. Assess business reputation. Is the game a reputable business? Genuine PA Skill games were not intended to be standalone businesses. 4. Examine game style. Is it a tic-tac-toe style game that offers the option to win every time? Help combat fraudulent skill games by exclusively playing genuine PA Skill Alliance supported games. Discover more at paskillalliance.org.
Welcome back to the Checkout Podcast. If you're just tuning in, we're talking through a lot of crazy things, including our refrigeration breakthroughs. But we're here today with Neil Cornish, our friend from the University of Montana, talk about all things space related. Can't wait.
Neil, real quick before we get started, Brandon and I have a rule in our family that our kids can't go anywhere to school that's more than one flight away. So, of course, Cam being Cam, she goes to Bozeman, Montana State, 2 flights away, sometimes 3. And then she gets in with a family of international travelers. So, you know, that kind of ruined that whole idea and situation. Yep. But I really appreciate everything you've done for Cam. And, you know, James, you should be very proud. He's a great guy. I'm glad the 2 of them have found each other. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's well, we love having Cam around, and yeah, she's part of the family here as well now. We all went off to Hawaii together. That was a lot of fun this year. So, and they're going to be looking after our house for us this fall. So that's good.
Neil, do you surf?
I used to a little bit in Australia. These days I ski. But yeah, back when I grew up in Australia, I grew up actually on a farm about 4 hours away from the coast. But then when I went to university in Melbourne, close to some great surfing areas. So I picked up surfing when I was in college, did a bit, but haven't had much opportunity since I came to Montana. So yeah, switched to skiing.
So with Montana, obviously you have snow. It's not very warm. You don't have the beach. You know, do you
Yep.
Are you adjusted now that you've been out there, for a long time, or do you miss the coast?
No, I'm actually more into mountains than I am into oceans. Like the place where I grew up in Australia doesn't have much in the way of mountains. It's one of the oldest continents. It's really eroded. Like the highest mountain in Australia is only a little over 7,000 feet, which is, around here. I mean, Bozeman's at 5,000 feet. So, that would be a little bump if it was out here. But where I grew up, the farm was at the edge of a big, what's now a national park, the Grampians National Park. It's a small, by U.S. standards, a very small mountain range. But I've always just loved going up into the mountains. So I love it out here. It's actually, while it's colder and different in other ways, it's still Montana has the big open spaces that I grew up with in Australia. So it's sort of similar in that way as well. I do a lot of outdoor stuff. Ryan's been out to the place we have out in Montana. We have some acres out here and another valley over from Bozeman. And it's just beautiful and really desolate out there. There's just no people. So I really, really like that. Reminds me of Australia, even though it's got snow.
It's a different world out there. It's a different world. Like, it's funny when you're in Bozeman and then you go out. What's the nearest town there? Starts with a W.
It's Clyde Park, and then it's Wilsall. Our address is officially Wilsall, Montana, and then Clyde Park's actually the closest town. But they're each, I don't know the exact populations, but it's counted in the hundreds, not in the thousands. These are little tiny towns, and the whole valley, the whole Shields Valley, which is the next valley over from Gallatin Valley where Bozeman is probably only, of order a few thousand people in the whole valley, in this massive valley. So it's really sparsely populated, mostly cows, not many people.
You haven't met Colt yet, have you?
I have not. No.
Yeah, that's you'll get a kick out of him. He's a character. He was actually a guest on the show a couple of weeks ago, getting ready for his big cheesesteak launch for the year. But it was funny. I was talking to him last night, and he said, hey, when are you talking to Neil? When's Neil going to be on the podcast? I said, tomorrow. It's funny you asked. Literally tomorrow we're interviewing. And he said, this is crazy. He said, today in science class, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the lecture or whatever, and we're going over, and he said, all of a sudden, the teacher mentioned that a team won a Nobel Prize by proving that gravity moved in waves, and it hit Colt. He's like, he raised his hand. He's like, hey, I know that guy. And the teacher, think about it. You don't expect somebody to say that. And Colt's a little bit, he can be a joker. So, I think the teacher probably was like, wait, you're interrupting class. And he went into the whole story of you and how we know you and everything. And they were like amazed that he, I think you might have been amazed that he was paying attention, because I'm sure he gets distracted in class, but he was, it was pretty cool that he was like, it was so wild. He's like, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the team that was part of that made that discovery, the first detection of gravitational waves. We've since detected about 400 or so events, and so it's teaching us a lot about black holes and neutron stars. These are like really extreme objects when stars collapse, right? So, getting to see a whole different side of the universe using this new way of probing the universe, because it uses the waves of gravity rather than waves of light, which is waves of electricity and magnetism. So it's opened up a different way of looking at the universe, which is pretty cool.
And I'm excited. I can't wait to talk to more about the the detection and everything else. Well, I have one last question about a little about your history. I was reading up on you that you worked in Steve Hawking's general relativity group at Cambridge. How'd you go from a guy in Australia landing that? Like, I mean, that's crazy. Like, it's almost like, when you talk about like what you do and what the science of the world is, and Stephen Hawking's a huge name. How do you go from Australia to that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned a couple of times already, I grew up on a sheep farm out in the bush, couple of thousand acres, long way from the nearest town. Had to drive an old farm beater truck down to get to the paved road where the school bus would come from. So I was driving on, public roads at like 10 years old. Anyway, we had amazing view of the stars there. And so I was always fascinated about, what was out there in the universe. And also working on a farm, you're always tinkering with machinery. So I was forever taking everything apart, sometimes putting it back together again, not always successfully. So I was always into how stuff worked, right? So I got into like, how does the universe work? And I also just had a knack for math. I mean, physics is all math. It's the language of the universe is mathematics. And I just happened to find math easy. And so in school, it was my go-to subject because it was the one that I didn't have to work very hard at, and the physics as well. So, I think it was just I got fascinated about the universe, and I'd read books by Carl Sagan and things, and about black holes, and I just got really into it. So that was my path, and then I went to university and did well in my studies, and ended up getting hired into Stephen Hawking's group. So,
well, that was a pretty good move. That was a pretty good move. Hey, real quick, Neil, I was telling Doug about, Doug and I, we enjoy wine, and people enjoying wine is one thing. You have taken it to the connoisseur level, in my opinion, at least for our standards. I was telling him about your cellar that you put in to your house, built into your house. Doug, I'll tell you what, if you see this, I have a video. I'll have to show Doug this video. Once I show him this video, he's going to be working on a wine cellar in his house. Probably have one right beside the studio.
Yeah, that's the studio.
And when you were saying about tinkering with stuff and building stuff, that's Doug. But and you might have told me this when we were talking, but what is the furthest you've ever brought home or shipped wine to in your current collection and your cellar right now? What's the furthest extent?
Yeah, to be from Australia. There's a lot of, especially wines from like smaller producers that you're just not going to see getting through the distribution system into the US. And so I'll, throw some in the suitcase. There's special little packs you can get. You can put the wine bottles in that seal it. So if it does get broken, it doesn't like spill red wine over all your clothes. But I've never actually had a bottle break in a suitcase that you throw it in amongst your clothes and you get it packed in it. It usually lasts pretty good. Again, from growing up, there were a lot of wineries in the area. So I got to, meet a lot of winemakers and see the process, and I had actually had friends growing up that actually looked after me when I was a kid, when my parents were busy, and they then had a winery in South Australia, a very, very successful winery, taught me a lot about wine. So even when I was like 13, 14 years old, go and visit them, they'd be like teaching me things about wine then. So I really got into just partly the science of it, and also just the taste experience and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it goes with one of my hobbies outside of work is cooking. I really like to cook, and so pairing the wine with the food and enjoy that.
So Neil, if it's okay, I want to kind of get into a little bit to the gravitational wave detection and the original. It's
Yep.
pronounced? Is it LIGO or LIGO? Is LIGO?
LIGO is how we pronounce it. Yeah, it's an acronym: Laser Interferometer Gravitational Observatory, but we pronounce it LIGO.
So that was the original thing, correct? When you guys detected using the gravitational waves. For people that we always hear about black holes and all this sci-fi about people flying through them from time and space. For people out there, I mean, black holes are massive. I mean, to like us, I mean, is it like an ant versus like the entire Earth? I mean, or is it bigger, like black holes? Like, I mean, obviously different sizes.
Yeah. So the actual, we'll call the size of the black hole, it's event horizon. That's the surface. If you go inside there, you're not getting out, right? So and so if you took the Earth and squeezed it down and kept on squeezing it, it would eventually become a black hole. But it would fit inside the palm of your hand. That's how tiny it would be. So that would be the event horizon of our Earth turned into a black hole would fit in the palm of your hand. So even if you took the sun and squished it down to be a black hole, the event horizon would only be a bit over a mile across, right? So it would be super concentrated, all that mass. But one thing that people get wrong about black holes, they think, oh, it's this incredible sucking machine that's just going to pull everything in. It doesn't work like that. If you replace the sun right now by a black hole with the same mass of the sun, right, and just replaced it like that, instantly turn the sun into a black hole, it would not change the orbits of any of the planets at all. I mean, the gravity is exactly the same. It's no different. It's just what makes a black hole is you can get a lot closer to where the mass is concentrated. Because with the sun, you go down and approach the sun, it's a big fluffy ball of gas, right? So the gravity never gets that strong. But if you can concentrate it down, so it's only when you get really close that you notice the difference. But as far as it's exactly the same gravitational field if it was turned into a black hole. So it's not going to suddenly suck everything in. It would get very dark and cold, but it would not suck us in.
And which is crazy to think about that. So, this machine or this technology you guys are using is detecting that light years away. Like, I mean, we're not talking about, it's not down the street at the local telly. I mean, this thing is out there.
Yeah. I mean, the first system we detected, it was two black holes, each about 30 times the mass of the sun. And when they collided, the gravitational wave energy at that moment was greater than the combined output of every star in every galaxy in the universe. So a huge amount of energy in a fraction of a second, in less than a tenth of a second, it turned about 3 times the mass of the sun into pure energy. And like the biggest nuclear weapon that has ever been detonated, it was a Russian hydrogen bomb that was tested. It's called Tsar Bomba. That obliterated about 5 kilograms of matter and turned it into pure energy. So like a fat cat getting turned into pure energy was the most powerful. But instead of turning like a cat into energy, imagine turning 3 suns into energy. So it was this incredibly powerful event. But despite that, gravitational waves, by the time they get to the Earth, what they do is they stretch and squeeze the Earth. But the effect we were picking up was 1/10,000th the width of a proton. And a proton's the thing at the center of an atom. A proton's 100,000 times smaller than an atom, right? In fact, the entire Earth squeezed in and out when that gravitational wave came through by less than the width of an atom. So, they're incredibly weak squeezing that we have to detect. So this machine, this LIGO machine, is the most sensitive measuring device that man has ever constructed. It's a technological marvel that we can make such measurements.
That's Honestly, I mean, it's borderline, Neil. After listening to all that information, I almost need just a minute to just let it sink in. I mean, what you just told me is like, boom. I mean, it's my own personal big bang. Like, what is happening right now? I mean, but I got a quick question, though. It's kind of a follow up. So these gravitational waves that are flowing through Earth. So, in theory, I mean, I know you just described how tiny
Mhm.
particles are, but in theory, are we in the canned goods in the aisle? Are we like shrinking and
Yes, a
getting?
little tiny bit. Yes,
That's
absolutely.
wild.
You're getting squeezed in and out by these gravitational waves every day, all the time,
That
right
is
now.
wild.
It's just such a tiny effect that it's, when Einstein first predicted the gravitational waves existed, he did this back in 1915, right? But then he did a quick calculation to figure out how strong the effect would be from any sort of imaginable event that he could conceive of. And he very quickly figured out that it was going to be such a tiny thing that it would be impossible to ever measure, is what he concluded, right? He said, oh, this is hopeless. We will never be able to measure this. So it's an interesting theoretical prediction of the theory that he'd come up with about gravity, right? But it was like, yeah, no one's ever going to measure that. So he just basically dismissed it as being something, this is impossible to measure. But, we did it. Took 100 years, but then technology advanced, and we were able to make a measurement that seems impossible.
I got a quick story about Einstein. So in college, I read the biography by Isaacson. I read the biography,
Yes.
and I have it, right? And so it was in my college books, and I used to be a bouncer at a nightclub, so I'd put $100 every week in the book, and on the pages, like between the pages, I'm like, you know what? Nobody's going to steal this book, and nobody's going to open this book. And I forgot about it. And Lizzie's going through the stuff one day, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, there's $3,000 in this book. I'm like, what?
Imagine how much that $3,000 would be if you'd actually invested as much stuff in the book.
I forgot all about it. I threw in my college stuff, and I came home, and I got busy at work selling cans of corn. And the next thing I know, and Lindsay there one day, she's like, first off, why do you have a book about Einstein? Secondly, there's like $3,000 here.
That's amazing. Oh, if you'd have thrown that into Apple, man.
You'd be retired by now.
I'm buying SpaceX. When it comes to IPO next month, I'm in.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
I'm in.
I was hoping, Neil, I'll be honest with you. I was hoping you were going to say there was a little more of effect of those gravitational waves because, I don't know if James has shared, but Brandon and I are on this like journey together. We go do the fast way. We work out together. It's a good bonding experience. We're on this intermittent fasting program where, the whole situation. Yep. So, working on that. I was just trying to see if there was like a better time to like jump on the scale. You know what I mean?
Right. Just get it when it's
like just time it
you up on the scale a little bit.
But unless I can get myself access to a good LIGO device, I think I'm probably
probably I mean these devices are so sensitive that if you walk by them, they've got these big mirrors that are hanging there that we use to make the measurement. Just your gravitational field from the mass of your body, right? It pulls that mirror a little bit, and we can measure that deflection that you cause by walking by it from your gravitational pull. Now, when you normally walk by someone, you don't feel the gravitational pull of that person, right? So that's just how incredibly, ridiculously sensitive these instruments are.
So one last question. So we talked about the black hole. We talked about measuring it. Before we talk about the signal analysis, this thing happened a couple billion years ago. This collision.
Right.
That's how far it was. Correct. I mean, it was so far away. It was billions of years ago. It took
it's taken, and that's like light as well. I mean, we've now got from our observations actually of the first collision of two neutron stars we picked up in 2017 using these detectors. The gravitational waves arrived at the same time as light, so that tells us they both travel at the same speed. So when we look at, you see those images from Hubble or now the James Webb, telescope, and they're looking back showing images of galaxies from the early universe. I mean, that light's been traveling for billions of years, tens of billions of years. So we're seeing the universe, right, back in its infancy because it's taken so long for the light to get here. So they're time machines. We get to see the universe way in the past. So we don't have to guess what the universe looked like at the beginning or very early on. We just go and look out. If you look far enough, you'll see it what the universe looked like tens of billions of years ago.
That's insane. That's insane.
Is there any way to see, this is just crazy, but if you think about time and travel and everything else, is there any way to see the reflection of Earth from like out there? Is there a way to look at something else and see a reflection back on Earth and basically its own time machine?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to get enough of a bounce back of enough light to see that. I mean, one possibility that's kind of wild that we have considered is actually something I worked on back when I was in Cambridge in Hawking's group. There is the possibility that the universe might not go on forever, but it might be like the surface of the Earth. If you heading west, you'll eventually loop all the way around the universe, all the way around the Earth, and you'll get back to where you started from, even if you just go west the whole time, right? So the universe could be the same. It could actually be shaped so that you can actually go right around and come back to where you are. So light could actually be doing entire loops of the universe. And then you'd actually see the Earth from this light taking a whole loop around the universe, and we'd actually see it, loop right back. So we'd see it coming in from the other direction. But we tested for that and haven't seen any indications that the universe is sufficiently small for the light to have wrapped all the way around. But that is a possibility. But right now the best we can do is, send a probe out, or like Artemis 2, and go up and look back at the Earth from space and see it there. But we're not going to get enough of a bounce off another galaxy or something to see us from far, far away.
You had mentioned, Neil, about Hawking's group. You've told me this story before, but explain to the crowd, because it's an interesting journey. The journey from that moment working with that group to you're at Montana State, 2 kids, wife, Jamie. Explain that process to the group. How a guy, first we've already talked about guy goes from Australia to Hawkins group in Cambridge. Now, how do you get from Cambridge to Montana State?
So I met my wife Jamie at Cambridge. Actually, I tell the kids that if it wasn't for Stephen Hawking, they wouldn't be here, right? Because it was actually one of Stephen Hawking's graduate students at the time, Chris Hunter, who's actually a Canadian. He was one of Jamie's best friends at Cambridge, and they were at the same college. Cambridge actually isn't really so much a university, it's a collection of colleges. And they were at the same college, and Chris invited me to dinner at the college for one of their formal dinners where you have to put on the robes and everything, right? And I met Jamie at that dinner, and that's how we got to know each other, was actually through one of Stephen Hawking's students who invited me to a dinner at his college, and so that's how I met Jamie. Actually, I saw a job posted in Montana when I was at Cambridge, and I just watched a couple of movies that were set in Montana. It turns out some of them weren't filmed here. Legends of the Fall was one of them. That was actually filmed in Alberta. It was supposed to be in Montana. And River Runs Through It, which was filmed right just outside Bozeman. I thought that looks kind of cool. So I was like, well, I'll apply for that job because it looks like, an interesting place. And I came out, and they offered me the job, and I took it, but I deferred taking the job for a bit and went to work at Princeton for a while, and then I came here. So it actually it was a job that was posted outside my office in Cambridge, and I just thought it'd be kind of cool to go and live in a place like this. And now with the internet and everything, you can work, and still be connected with people. You don't have to be in a big city to do what I do. You can connect with people these days. We do a lot of Zoom calls and things like that. I'm I work in a lot of big international collaborations. We just do it all via remote connection, and then once in a while we get together in person.
Yeah, I can relate to it. When I watched A River Runs Through for the first time, I instantly wanted to learn how to fly fish. You know, I
Yeah.
wanted to move to Montana. I wanted to whitewater rapid. I wanted to
Yep.
do the whole 9 yards. So I could see how that would have been exciting.
I wanted to bootleg liquor when I watched that movie.
Yeah.
I wanted to play cars and bootleg liquor.
until the mom got the late night phone call. Spoiler alert,
you know,
sorry for everybody out there.
Yeah, there's actually, if you were whitewater rafting on the river that they were filming on, as they take you past a rock there, they call it Brad Pitt Rock because during the filming he would sunbathe naked on that rock. On top of that rock.
Hide your wives.
Huge boulder in the river. So yeah, that was Brad Pitt Rock.
He left his mark.
Brad Pitt Rock. I love it. So you talked, Doug mentioned the signal analysis, the so-called needle in a haystack,
Yep.
So explain to us, explain as best as you can to a guy like me, like how do you isolate the one tiny thing you're looking to try to see, hear, whatever? How do you get the random noise out of there to be able to isolate that? Is that something you can break down for us?
Yeah. So it's, we use two things to do it. One is for a lot of the signals, we have a pretty good idea of what we're looking for because we've got predictions. We can use Einstein's theory to predict what the signal should look like. So it's a bit like what you do when you go out, like if you're out, just driving through the countryside and you're looking for a deer or something like that, right? Your brain kind of knows what a deer looks like and you're seeing lots of other stuff, but you can kind of pick it out because it's something you know what you're looking for. So one of the things is we're comparing the data to our model of what we think a signal should look like. So we're trying to tell signal apart from noise, right? Like, is this a deer or is it a rock? Or is it a tree or is it a stump, right? And so there's noise out there, but then you're able to pick it out because you've got a very clear idea of what a deer versus a stump, a tree stump. So, so that's part of it. The other thing is we have more than one detector. We have two detectors in the US, one in Hanford, Washington, which is near Walla Walla, a wine area. And then there's another one just outside of Baton Rouge in Louisiana. And then there's another one just outside of Pisa in Italy. And what we do is we look to see, do we see the same signal in all the detectors at once? Because they should all arrive at almost the same time because it's just like all within like the time it takes for light to travel across the Earth. So if we see something happening, all the detectors at once, then it's like it wasn't just a random blip, but it was something that was coming from outer space and was setting off all the detectors simultaneously. So often it's like looking for when do we see them all light off at once. So yeah, there's lots of noise, lots of pops and crackles. It's like listening. You can actually listen to the detector. The signals we're looking for are right in the human hearing band. So if you can actually like literally put on headphones and listen to the output and you hear these pops and crackles. Well, once in a while, that's a gravitational wave. So when you hear a pop and a crackle at the same time in, the two different detectors, then that's a sign we found a gravitational wave.
Well, a follow-up question. That's a great explanation. The deer thing really hit home. In fact, it's funny when Brandon and I go for walks. Whenever you come out, we'll go for a walk around the property. And whenever we go for walks around the property, being a former hunter, I immediately see the deer. Like I'm looking for the deer. So that was a good explanation of it. The funny thing is, half our walk is me trying to show and then explain to Brandon where the deer is or was because her detection for the deer is just
exactly right. Her template, like hunters have really good templates for these things. Really good. I do the same. Like James has incredible spotting abilities. We go hunting together and he's been doing that with me since he was a little kid. And, we'll be like driving along and we'll be like spotting a deer or an antelope or an elk, like way off, a little dot, a little speck somewhere. And everyone else is like, what? I can't see anything. It is something. It's weird how your brain just really gets good at doing that, like picking it out against the backdrop of everything else, even when it's really far away. And Jamie's like, I don't see anything.
That was a good explanation there, because that really hit home. Speaking of antelope, when I was out at your place, you made those amazing antelope burgers.
Yeah.
Oh, just Doug. You should never have Doug taste one. He's going to want to get a license. He's going to go out there. He's going to want to hunt. He's going to want to. Doug's a pretty good cook in his own right, but that antelope burger was amazing. In Montana, is that your favorite? Is that your favorite?
Yeah, definitely. The pronghorn antelope are my favorite thing to hunt. They're really challenging, plus they're delicious. So it's that combination. Very different from hunting deer or elk. They just hide out. They don't hide. They're just out in the open because they're the second fastest animal on the planet. So they don't worry about wolves or people or anything. And so, you've got to then find a way they have incredible eyesight. Their eyesight is equivalent to us with like 8-power binoculars. And so they can see you coming from miles away. So you got to find ways to like sneak up on them, use the topography, the lie of the land to find some way in on them. So it's a super challenging kind of intellectual exercise. You look at a topographical map and go, and you often have to hike for miles to come up around on them, right? Because you have to find some way to get to them where they can't see you for the whole way that you're hiking. So it's a lot of fun. And then once you get one, they're super tasty. So, my wife won't eat deer, so she says, I don't really like that. So she just likes antelope. She'll let me shoot antelope and elk. Those are the only two things she'll eat. So,
well, you mentioned earlier you've been to Hawaii. Have you ever did the Atlas deer in Hawaii? They say that's amazing as far as challenging of a hunt.
No, I've not maybe been in the right part where they are either, but they're on the Big Island somewhere.
I think it's on La Jolla, or it's one of the smaller islands.
Okay.
But they have this overpopulation of Atlas deer, and it's almost, they're hard to shoot. They're fast. They're quick. They're smaller. So it's a very challenging hunt. And I've heard people talk about, it's very similar to out west big hunting, but, these little tiny deer just ripping through the underbrush. It's hard to get them. So question about now you guys have seen some of these black holes, and, is there like an estimate of how many? And to the same point, is there a master file, and is it like a thumbprint where like this black hole combination has this exact wave and this one has this?
Exactly.
You guys can like obviously categorize it.
That's right. Exactly. So from the predictions of, we're able to predict what the waves look like by solving Einstein's equations. And then depending on, the masses of the two black holes, what their spins are, where they are in the sky, that all changes the signal that we receive. And so we actually use computers to run through all of these hundreds of thousands of possibilities, try them all out, and find which one matches, right? So it's pattern matching, and everyone has a different, like you say, fingerprint. And so we were able to figure out how fast they're spinning, because they can spin around just like the Earth's spinning. And they, can figure out their masses because it changes the signals we get. So we now know that the signals, the kinds of black holes we're detecting we believe they form from massive stars that collapsed. And these signals actually happen, they're happening somewhere in the universe. Every few minutes, there's one of these collisions happening. Now, we don't pick up all of them because our detectors aren't yet, even though they're incredibly sensitive, we can't detect all the way out over the whole universe. But in the next generation of detectors, starting up next decade, they'll be able to detect every single black hole merger in the entire universe, right? And so they happen, every few minutes. There's black holes colliding.
That's crazy. And what's the closest one to us?
Well, the closest ones that we've had happen have been still hundreds and hundreds of millions of light years away. The closest one that we've seen merge. The closest black hole to us, we don't really know for sure. There's some in our galaxy that are only, maybe 1,000 or so light years away from us. Like those are individual black holes. There might be a black hole and a star. And the way we see those is there's material getting torn off the star, falling onto the black hole, and then that lights up. So we're actually seeing as the matter streams off off that star, it heats up as it falls into the black hole. So there's some that we've seen, not through the gravitational waves, but just from the light from the material that's falling onto them. It looks like we lost Ryan.
Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah, he's always talking about technology. But while we're talking about this detection and this analysis, in the news we hear about like the super sensitive machine that somehow got some guy's heart rate 30 miles away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think that if we can measure that, that's a technology that could exist.
Yeah, I heard about that. The explanation for how that technology worked actually doesn't really make sense from a physics standpoint. I think that what they're doing there, I have no doubt they have some very, advanced sensing equipment, but it's probably like a bit of a smokescreen. Like, tell people it's detecting the magnetic fields of a heartbeat, right? So that the Russians can't reproduce that machine. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not actually how it works. So I don't know exactly what technology, but it doesn't make sense, the one that they claimed it was. So I think that it's a bit of a, to throw off, you don't want to give away your secrets, right? So they do have, and there was also, they used some kind of device in Venezuela to knock out the guards when they did that snatch, right? And it's not quite clear what they used, but it was maybe a microwave weapon or something like that. So, of course, they don't want to tell people what they used, but it could have been something like a microwave weapon, something that actually gets oscillations happening in your brain. It's probably very painful and unpleasant. It could have been some weird kind of sonic weapon as well. But again, they don't want to really say what technology was used. But I don't think that one that they found, that airman in Iran was actually a magnetic sensor of heartbeats. I think it was something else.
I feel like we're Mythbusters, and you're like, busted. Busted. No, it's funny because when we agreed to this podcast, I was like, I'm gonna ask Neil because this is like Rep Neil's alley. If all the guys I know in the universe are about to know, he was gonna tell me the truth, and sounds like it's a little bit of smoke screening.
Yeah, I have no doubt that there's some very cool tech that they have, but they don't want to give away the details. So they put up this explanation of what it was, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
Let me ask you this. Now that we're myth busting, we're into that realm. It's got the old creative waves going. And now that I got my technology back up and running, we're cruising again. But, here's a question for you. So you've listened in on these very sensitive, like picking up everything around us and from far, far galaxies, far, far away, as they would say in the scroll in Star Wars. So in your opinion, everybody always asks this all stuff. Is there anything out there? Is there anyone else out there? Is there any other life out there? First of all, what are your thoughts on that? And secondly, have you ever heard anything coming back through that's like, whoa?
Yeah. Okay. Answer to the first question. Absolutely. I think there are, I think there's life on other planets in the universe, and in fact, I think it's probably going to be more that's like most star systems probably have planets that, well, first of all, pretty much every star has planets around it. That we now know. In fact, it's a natural part of the formation process. When you're forming a star, it forms out of a dust cloud. It's almost automatic you get planets. It's actually really, really hard not to have planets when you form a star, right? So pretty much every star you see out there at night has planets around it. And then if you look at the Earth and the history of the Earth, within a blink of an eye from the point where the Earth actually cooled down, so it wasn't just like molten rock that really no biological life could live on because it would just break up the molecules. As soon as it kind of cooled down enough, life appeared almost instantly, right? So I think that life is sort of a very natural, sort of inevitable part that goes along with. And now you have to have conditions that are, you know, somewhat amenable. But, you know, right near where we live here in Bozeman, we've got Yellowstone National Park. Down in the hot spring features there, where the temperatures are well above boiling, there are extremophiles. There are, you know, forms of life that live there that, you know, a lot of them don't even, you know, they don't breathe oxygen. They don't need sunlight. Some of them live off elemental sulfur. That's their food source. They eat sulfur, right? Like they don't need oxygen, or they do need water. Water seems to be pretty key to life. But I think there's life probably on a large number of planets throughout our galaxy, throughout the universe. The problem is the universe is really, really big. And, you know, everything's very far away. And to get to the point where you have life gets to having technology takes a long time. And so, you know, what are the chances that we actually get signals from some other intelligent life forms in the universe? Would we even understand them? I think we could understand them because we probably all use the same math. I think math is universal. I think it's written into the universe. So I think that we could communicate to them with math. I haven't seen the movie, but I've read the book. Oh, now I'm suddenly forgetting the name of it. It's the new movie. I think it's Ryan Reynolds in it.
Hail Mary.
Hail Mary. Yes, Project Hail Mary. It's a great book. I've read the book. He's the same guy that did the Martian. And so there's a lot of good science in it, and it's a really interesting story, especially in the book. I haven't seen the movie, and I don't know how, in that compressed time frame, how well could they actually get across the science. But the coolest part in the book, which I highly recommend reading, is how, and I don't want to give away the plot, but he does find an alien, how they establish communication is really cool, right? And it does end up depending on mathematics. But yeah, so I think there's life out there, other life out there, and I think that it's essentially an inevitable part of the formation of planets and everything. You're going to get life as well. Whether we're going to be able to, I don't think that anything has visited us yet. I mean, I know a lot of people do think that. I have not seen any evidence yet that, but I do think that life's out there, and maybe we can get to communicate with some other intelligent life forms, but I've not seen anything yet.
It's funny. Elon Musk says, listen, I'll give it somebody like, I think $1 million if they can send me one picture that's not on like a 1945 cell phone camera, blurry, bad lighting, and looks like it was edited. Somebody sends me like a nice like iPhone, like, hey, here's me with the alien.
Yep.
$1 million.
Yep.
I gotta ask you a question, Neil. So you mentioned the movie The Martian, which I forgot how much I enjoyed that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And when Matt Damon's there and he's struggling to figure out how he's going to live long enough for them to come back and get him, and when he grows the potatoes, now does that all check out? Does that process check out?
I mean, you know, so the author did a lot of research, right, and looked into it and tried to. Now the problem is, the soil on the moon and the soil on Mars is not only is it sterile, but it's also toxic. There's a lot of toxic chemicals in it, right? You know, so he started mixing in like human waste and things like that. I'm not quite sure if, you know, what he was doing would have been enough to actually get around the sort of toxicity of the Earth there, the soil. I don't think we know as much about the Martian soil as we do about the lunar soil. So yeah, I think it's, well, one thing we do know about the lunar soil is it's very spiky. Like, because there's no winds on the moon, there's nothing to have eroded the particles and round them off. So the space suits get hugely damaged because it's like lots of little spiky grains just tearing up your spacesuit, right? Now, Mars, we think, probably did have water and probably did have, potentially life on it. So it might be a bit more amenable to, growing food on eventually. So, but the moon is really tough, really nasty. Like the spacesuits, they took a beating. It's like just sandpaper hitting every joint in those, the worst sandpaper you can ever imagine.
After watching the movie, I think he missed the thing though, because I think his name was Waltney, or Waltney was the guy in the movie, his character.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
If I can make potatoes and I'm stuck on Mars and there's probably no chance for me getting off, I'm making potato vodka.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Why did he make potato vodka?
He didn't, did he?
He did not.
Oh.
He was trying to eat that. I'm like, listen, guys, I have like 5 million days by myself up here. I have nothing going on. I'm listening to old radio things. I'm making vodka.
Yeah, I mean, he'd need a little bit of yeast, right? But yeast is pretty much everywhere. It's hard to imagine you could cleanse everything you took up to Mars that wouldn't have a bit of yeast on it, right? Like natural fermentation. That's, we were talking about wine earlier. No one invented wine. They used amphorae to store the grapes, big clay jars. The weight of the grapes would crush the grapes at the bottom. The grape skins are covered in yeast. It would just start fermenting. You don't have to invent wine. It just, same with beer. Make good wine is difficult, but just making wine's not hard. And the same thing with vodka, right? You can get fermentation going, and then off you go. Making distillation wouldn't have been hard. So yeah, he could have made some potato vodka.
What a big mess.
Oh no. And then, back to the Romans though. The Romans had it was aggregate. On rye? It grew on rye. It was like a mold, but they made it into a beer.
Oh yes.
They made it into a beer, but it's basically like ayahuasca.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a natural fungus that grows on wheat that is basically LSD, right? And then actually about a year or so ago on the place that we have out in the Shields Valley, we had some hensbane growing, an introduced weed. And I managed to kill it, but I was like reading up on it. And it's poisonous, but in low quantities, it's a hallucinogen, and people used to brew beer and put it in it. And so their beer was kind of weak, but with the hensbane, it gave them a whole different high. Now, if you put too much in, you died. So it was tricky. I wouldn't recommend it, but it was interesting. Yeah, so beer was, like through the Middle Ages was often brewed with hensbane in it. And that made it, yeah. But anyway, I got rid of it all.
So what you're saying is maybe all of those Black deaths, maybe half of it might have been the Hangsbane, getting the mix wrong,
getting a little bit too strong, getting the mix wrong, you're dead.
Hey, probably caught the plague. Roll them out.
Hey, I'm warning you. If you go out there, Neil's like this. I brewed my own beer, Ryan. Try this. Wow.
I mean, I would drink it as a good guest, but I would be like, after this conversation, I'd be like, well, I guess, hey, you know what? I have everything locked down. My will's good. Okay, let's see what happens, Neil.
Okay. So you talked a little bit earlier about the shape of the universe, how a couple of different ideas of the shape. So what is the most current, what do people think? Is it like a big donut, or is it more like a long lima bean? Like, what does the universe look like? What's the topography?
Yeah, so we're a little bit stuck because we can only see a patch of the universe. And so imagine get back to the analogy of the Earth. And as I was saying earlier, that you could just like head off to the west and just keep going and eventually end up back where you started from, right? Loop right around the Earth. But, imagine you could only go, a couple of 100 miles, that was max. It would be much harder to figure out that the Earth, the shape of the Earth. Now, it was originally figured out by looking up at the stars and figuring out the Earth was curved that way. But imagine you couldn't look up. All you could do was like crawl around on the surface. If you could only crawl around on the surface over a couple 100 miles, you would never figure out that it was a ball. You would just think it was, you wouldn't know. And we're kind of stuck like that with the universe. What we've been able to say is that for the portion of the universe we can see, there's no evidence that light's wrapped around. So it's a theoretical possibility, but it could be that the universe does have some weird shape where light wraps around, but we just can't see enough of the universe to have actually seen a complete loop yet. So we don't actually know what the shape is. All we can say is the part that we're seeing doesn't have any of these crazy loops in it where you can actually see the back of your head by looking out, in that direction. So, I worked on this 20 plus years ago now, and we used data from the Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe, or WMAP, and we used that to look at the light from the Big Bang, which is about as far away as we can see, and we found no evidence of light wrapping around using that. So we don't know, really, is the answer at this point. We could have seen it if it was there, but the patch of the universe we see is not big enough for us to answer it.
So it sounds like you're not a big fan of flat Earth theory.
No.
So are all
No, that one was sorted out like people say like Columbus figured that out. It's not true. It was figured out centuries and centuries before by people doing experiments like Greeks and whatever. It was like viewing stars from different places on the Earth. They were able to figure out the shape of the Earth back then, so they already had a pretty good estimate. In fact, the estimate that Columbus used for the radius of the Earth was a bad estimate. There were much better ones available. So he thought it was a shortcut, to head east to try and, head west to try and get to India, right? But he was using the wrong number for the radius of the Earth. And even in his time, there was a much more accurate number out there, which would have told him that's not the way to go. But anyway.
We are dispelling a lot of myths.
Oh,
here
we're
today,
myth
man.
busting.
I'll tell you what, Western Pennsylvania, we just jumped like a couple of notches on the chart of IQ, man. I mean, everybody did. I mean, this is crazy. It's blowing my mind so far.
And to the same point, talking about planets. Just one more question about planets before we move on into the other things. But because of gravitational pull, are all planets spheres?
That is, they're roughly spherical. It is gravitational pull that does it. In fact, that's kind of one of the things. There was that big controversy about whether is Pluto a planet or not. It's now there's a whole classification called minor planets, and there's a whole bunch of them other than Pluto that are minor planets. So there's little ones, but they're still spherical. Whereas once you get down to smaller sizes like asteroids, they're no longer spherical. There's not enough, their gravitational pull isn't enough to squish them into a sphere. So, all planets are roughly spherical because of their gravity. They're a little bit, they bulge out a bit at the equator typically because they spin. So you've got some centripetal force that makes them a bit wider at the equator. So they bulge out a bit. The sun bulges out. It's not a perfect sphere. It's wider at the equator. So it's gravity mostly that shapes the planets. And all planets, including the minor planets, are all pretty much spherical.
Interesting. Now, you work with pulsar timing arrays and
Yes.
using the stars to keep time. Who figured that out, first of all? Because that, to me, again, it's just like, I'm going to need a couple of beers after this to let this all sink in. Who figured that out, and how do you do that? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, so it was a astronomer in Cambridge, Jocelyn Bell, when she was a graduate student. They picked up the first signals from what we now call pulsars, and she was seeing these little blips, and they came really regularly. And at the time, I think she was back on one of those like chart recorders where it was like a chart that would like leave a line on graph paper, right? Because it was back, I guess it was in the 60s or something. And she wrote on it, "Little green men?" ? Because it was this very regular signal that was coming in. Later, we figured out that it was a rapidly rotating neutron star. So a neutron star is a collapsed star. They typically are about 1.5 times the mass of the sun, but they're only about, 10 odd miles across. So imagine squishing the sun. So it's not quite a black hole, but it's pretty as and they have radio beams that come out of each pole or just near each pole. And as they rotate, that beam, which is slight, it's the same as the Earth. The Earth has its rotation axis, but then its magnetic axis is slightly offset. So the North Pole is not quite rotating around the North Pole, right? It's offset a bit. That's true for a pulsar, and the jets are coming out along the magnetic axis. And so what happens, they're rotating, and every time that beam, like a lighthouse, every time it sweeps past the Earth, we get a blip. And that's why it's a very regular clock, is because this blip comes by every rotation, and they're very steady rotators. Some of them are rotating. The fastest rotating one rotates 700 times a second, which is faster than a blender. It's more massive than the sun, and it's, the size of a city rotating 700 times a second, right? So there's these crazy objects, there's lots of them. We now track hundreds of them, and we get these blips, and those blips should arrive at the same time. I mean, once you've accounted for the fact that we're orbiting around the sun and all that sort of thing. And so what we've been looking for is gravitational waves stretch space in and out, which means those blips might take a little longer to get here or a little less time depending on how much it's been stretched. It's a tiny effect. It only changes the distance between us and a pulsar by, maybe, a few feet or so. And these are, thousands of light years away. So we track the distance of these stars thousands of light years away. We can see the variation to, tens of feet from this arrival time. And we've been tracking that for now 20 years or so. And when we combine all that data, we've been able to figure out now we think we've detected gravitational waves now that are changing the arrival times of these pulses. So we announced that discovery 2 years ago. That's part of a collaboration called NanoGrav, North American Nanohertz Gravitational Wave Observatory. I'm a member of NanoGrav. So now I've been on the discovery papers for two types of gravitational waves. One of them around the sort of audio type band of human hearing, and this other one is down at super low frequencies where each wave takes like a couple of years to complete one cycle, right? So my hope, I'm on the science team for a future space-based detector. We will try and make detections in the millihertz regime, so that's one cycle every 1,000 seconds. That's, again, low frequency. That launches next decade, so my goal is to be on part of the discovery of gravitational waves in these three completely different bands. So I've got two of them. I want to complete my trifecta now with a space-based one as well.
It's funny, Neil. That's a great explanation. And actually, your explanation led me into remembering whenever Cam was first dating James. Just like everybody, you want, especially when you're 1,600 miles away, you want to see what the family's about. And so Brand did she's the investigator in our family. So she did the investigation, the checks on the family, that kind of thing. And it was so funny. She sent me a text. You'll think, oh, this is great. And I'm so glad you brought that up. She sent me this text, and I'll never forget it. I get this text, and it said, just did the background on James' family. It checks out. They seem like great people. But then she sent, this is his dad. And she sent a picture of you, real distinguished, with all the things you're a part of and the Nobel Prize and all of that. And then she sent me a picture of myself from the internet search on me. And it was me dressed in a chicken outfit trying to sell wings. And then she put goals of the dads to figure out how we're here. And then ... to sell more chicken wings. It's just funny. It's funny, the differences, but it's the relationship and everything is working out great. And it's a shame we can't see each other more because we've had a great time every time we've been around you.
I can't get over the man in a chicken suit.
Oh yeah, that was like one of the first things that came up. I mean, I could see if Jamie was doing this search. Let's see what the family's all about. See this guy in a chicken costume.
You know what? She should have played it up though. She should have been like, we're going to tell them we're vegans. Hide all the deer, hide everything. We're vegans now. Oh my God, it'd been great. So on the pulsar time erase, last question. So when one of these, stars start breaking down or they start getting a little bit off time, I mean, do you guys just put an out of order sign on it and move on to a new one? Or do you guys still use that data and technology?
Yeah. So they're generally very well behaved and they just keep on doing their thing, rotating around at a very constant rate. One of them, they all have like a zip code. They have like these names with, they often start with J and then a whole bunch of numbers. But anyway, I forget which one it was. It wouldn't mean anything anyway. One of them misbehaved a few years ago, and there must have been something happen inside this star that caused its pulses to change shape. So the pulses didn't look the same anymore, and it kind of messed up our timing. And so an investigation had to be done, like what's going on, and then we were able to like still use it, but we had to, refit the analysis because it had gonna have this little blip happen. But they generally don't do that very often. I mean, they're really well behaved. They're very steady rotators, so just once in a while, one of them has a little bit of a problem, but yeah, we managed to remodel it and kind of use it still. But they're really good clocks. I mean, they rival the best atomic clocks we have on Earth as far as their precision of their timing, which is pretty awesome that nature provided these incredible clocks out there. So this is a gravitational wave detector. The size of the detector is the size of the galaxy, right? Because these are sprinkled throughout our galaxy. So they're thousands of light years away. And so if nature hadn't provided, they're part of our detector, there's no way we could have placed them there ourselves. So we're actually using a nature-provided giant detector. And so, yeah, these amazing clocks, almost as good as an atomic clock, got sprinkled around the universe for us, which is just fantastic. We get to use those.
That's amazing. So earlier we were talking about how crazy the world is and how like our lives, I probably got 15 text messages already about some catastrophe. Like if something happens like that, nobody's like picks up the phone and it's like the red phone. They're like, Neil, you're not going to believe it. This star just 5 seconds off. Like there's no intensity. It's not like, did you ever watch the movie Armageddon?
Yes,
it's an old movie, and they mine an asteroid. I mean, it's insane, right?
Blow it up and stuff.
Yeah. Like there's no like phone calls like that. Like, hey, get to the bunker.
Well, we get pretty excited, right? I mean, like the people that do this stuff, yeah, we get pretty excited. But it doesn't exactly make national news because it's not impacting everyone's day-to-day life, right? So. But yeah, we get super excited about it. And but our crises don't cause the stock market to crash and stuff. So it's, our crises don't mean that your freezer's down or you're having some other problem. I mean, they tend to be more abstract. But yeah, we get super excited about it and we puzzle over it and have. We'll get together on calls all excited about things. Like when these events come in, like when the first gravitational wave detection came in, it was a huge scramble that day and then for the weeks afterwards. I mean, we got super excited, doing all sorts. There was a big investigation was done. Was this like a malicious, did someone hack into the computers and artificially put the signal in there? So there was all of this, it was like looking for when people hack into computers, like they do all that forensic stuff to see, was there a hack? And so we had people doing we really just wanted to be sure that we hadn't been fooled here. So yeah, there was a lot of excitement, but it's not things that, bother most people outside of the field.
That's good. So it sounds like for most part, it's a very complicated life, but it's not like you're waiting for Sally to call off tonight and have to go close the store.
Nope.
So obviously we're moving into the future. It's Lisa, correct?
Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's going to be space. Basically, the equipment's still going to be in space now. Is that the new level?
That's right. It's going to be. It's going to orbit around the sun. It's going to be in the same sort of orbit as the Earth, 3 satellites forming a triangle going around the sun. The satellites, the triangle, if you took that triangle, the sun would fit just inside it. So it's a huge detector. Over a million miles between each of the satellites. So it's not as big as that galactic scale one, but it's much bigger than the one on Earth, which is only, a couple of miles long. This is, over 1 million miles between the spacecraft. And we're going to be tracking the distance between those spacecraft very accurately. That launches in 2034. And that'll allow us to detect a whole different kinds of signals from massive black holes. Like at the center of our galaxy, there's a black hole that's about 4 million times the mass of the sun. It's isolated, it's just there on its own. But when black holes like that collide, they'll produce signals that we can pick up with that detector, but not with the current ones. The current ones, that's going to be too low frequency. It's like, if you think about instruments, like a double bass produces a much lower frequency sound than a cello or something like that, right? Or a violin. So the really big ones are really low frequency. So the current instruments can't pick those up but we'll pick them up with a space-based one. So there'll be all sorts of signals all over the universe that we'll pick up using this new space-based detector.
Now, will it have like dual redundancy? Will you have multiple satellites that can pick up if one falls apart, get hit by something? And are they looking at, like more of the like Starship platform, or are they looking at the traditional like Artemis platform? Has there been a platform picked?
It's actually currently planned to go up on the Europe. It's a European-led mission with NASA participation. So NASA's about 1/3 participant in the mission, and so it's going to go up on a European launcher is the current plan, and the satellites aren't huge. They're smaller than a car. So all 3 will launch simultaneously and then kind of get dropped off on their orbits. There is no redundancy, unfortunately. We don't have the money. We'd love to have redundancy, but it adds cost. So we'd love to have a spare satellite. The total mission cost, it's roughly $2 or $3 billion. So throwing an extra couple of satellites in would make it too expensive. So unfortunately, we have some redundancy. There's a lot of redundancy on board, lots of repeats of the same piece of equipment. But if something took out one of the satellites, it's dead. So, we have to hope that it all goes well. But we've got a pretty good track record. If you look at the recent James Webb Telescope, it had to unfurl all those parts. It was incredibly complicated. The whole mirror had to furl out, sun shields, had hundreds and hundreds of things had to happen right, and it all worked. So, NASA and the European Space Agency, they're pretty good at this. So I'm pretty confident it'll work, but I'd feel a lot happier if we could have a spare, but we don't have money for it.
That actually answered my next question, was I was thinking, okay, if Doug and I are here and something breaks at one of the stores, we can be there within a half hour, or we can call a company. They can be there within a half hour, repair it. Sometimes the bill is painful, but the actual process, is pretty manageable from that way.
Yep.
And you answered the question, like you can't, it's not like you can be like, somebody can call you and say, hey, Neil, and you say, oh yeah, I got a guy, I'm going to send him, up there. He'll be up there in 20 minutes. That doesn't work that way, but you just.
Right. Yeah. The only serviceable platform we've ever had was the Hubble Space Telescope, right? Astronauts visited that multiple times to do repairs. There are a couple of different missions that are attached to the space station, and those can be repaired by astronauts. There are plans going forward for future missions that would send up robotic repairmen. You think about it these days with AI and everything, you can imagine you could have a pretty complicated repair done by a robot going up to fix things. So robotic repair might be something for the future. But right now there are no plans for these being repairable, nor for any of the other missions that are up there right now. We do have an interesting one next year. There's a satellite, a NASA satellite called Swift. And it's a really cool satellite. It actually can find fast happening bursts of X-rays and gamma rays. It's the thing that it's one of the satellites that helped discover the counterpart to this neutron star merger. But the problem is it's been up for decades, like over a decade now, and its orbit's decaying because the Earth's atmosphere doesn't really sort of stop. It just gets thinner and thinner, but the satellite, the drag, is bringing it down. So it's going to burn up. But NASA's sending up a little a mission, I think later this year, that's going to try and latch onto it and reboost its orbit. It was never planned to be done, so there's nothing to attach to. Like there's no grabbing thing, so they're going to have to like carefully grab it and then try and boost it. So we'll see if that works. But yeah, they're trying to reboost its orbit. So that's like one of the first of these robotic missions. It's not quite doing a repair, but it's at least an orbit reboost. So I can imagine those in the future will actually have a robot go up, grab hold of the satellite, open up the panels, fix it, let it go. And you wouldn't want to be paying that repair bill either.
No, a $2,100 repair bill. If I get that, it sends tremors up and down my body, my spine, and everything else. I couldn't imagine.
This would be well over 21 million. Yeah.
Oh, geez, yeah. I'm not ready for that.
Now, these satellites we're talking about for the LISA program, will they be like, is there somebody sitting at their house and like, wherever, like monitoring and making adjustments, or is it all autonomous?
It's pretty much all autonomous. There are some commands that can be sent to do various things on board, but there's these little masses that are floating free. They're not attached to the satellite. The satellite shields them and floats around them. It's got little thrusters. It's sensing where it is. This little cube it's actually a gold platinum alloy. It floats around these cubes. And it's sensing where it is relative to that cube and then firing little thrusters. It does all that itself, right? So we don't touch anything. But there are a few things we can do. Some commands we could send up if things aren't quite working right. But mostly it just has to work on its own. And that's true of most of these missions. There's not a whole lot you can actually do. They pretty much need to take care of themselves. And that's why they're so expensive. You actually have to massively over-engineer these things so that they're lots of redundancy, super reliable, right? So that's why NASA missions are so successful, is because huge amounts of testing is done and a lot of redundancy is put in there, and they work doing very complicated things all on their own. So they're all robotic and just take care of themselves. But it's what makes it expensive.
Now, I mean, you're moving into, obviously space flight with all the great things that are happening. We just had Artemis, obviously successfully come back down, and everybody's, doing well. With the space flight, and then they're talking about the moon missions with Artemis, then also the moon base. And do you see that happening in the next 20 years, like a moon base where you can go there? I mean, we can't go there, but I mean, somebody has $1 billion laying around, they could probably go there. But do you see that being, obviously, the idea of being interplanetary with multiple planets that we're occupying, eventually, hopefully Mars. Do you see the moon being an easier conquest or an easier proposition than obviously Mars or any other planet in the system?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's obviously much closer, less fuel to get there. I think the competition right now with Blue Origin and SpaceX both have lunar landers. We'll see which one actually gets used for the first landing. It's a competition right now. And I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? They're going to send up, say, Starship or the Blue Origin lander, and it's going to dock with an Artemis, you know, spacecraft. The thing is, you could just go up in Starship. You don't actually have to go up in the Artemis thing, right? So I think that very quickly it'll be the private, the cost. Each Artemis launch costs $4 billion, and it's a throwaway, right? A Starship launch costs about $100 million, and it's mostly reusable. So you can do a lot of Starship launches for the cost of one Artemis launch. So I think that it'll be similar with Blue Origins. Also, they have reusable boosters and everything. So I think that's how we're going to be actually spending any significant amount of time on the moon and getting stuff up there. It's going to be the commercial launches. It's going to be Blue Origin and SpaceX, and that's how we're going to be getting there as well. Like, Artemis will not be... Artemis is 1960s technology. It's literally reflying 1970s space shuttle engines. It's like Stone Age compared to what Blue Origin and SpaceX are doing. So that's the future. It'll be the commercial platforms that actually establish bases on the moon, and eventually Mars.
One quick question for you, Neil. We had been texting back and forth a little bit about Artemis and about the return. You texted me about the possible return. Hopefully the calculations are right. And I was thinking about that afterwards, and I'm thinking, in my brain, my analogy was, when you're on the high dive and you're a little ginger about, jumping off the high and you're trying to pick that spot, you're trying to hit that spot 10 feet down or whatever it is. Like, there's a little bit of nerves that go into that, but you're talking about guys flying down at how fast are they going when they hit the earth? And, how do they map out and how do they know where they're going to hit in the ocean?
Well, that's not so hard to calculate. That's, orbital mechanics, gravity, Newton. I mean, basically we're just using Newton's calculations. Newton could have figured this out for us. That's not so hard. The really hard bit, well, what makes it a bit more difficult is you hit the atmosphere. And so you got drag, and the atmosphere is getting denser very quickly. So the drag's changing very rapidly with time. So that makes the calculation. But, we did those calculations back in the 60s with the computers back then. They took up a room, but they were a fraction of the capabilities your iPhone has, right, computationally. So those calculations aren't too difficult. The materials are complicated, like having something that can handle the heat of reentry. And so that was the risk, is on Artemis 1, they tried to do a skip reentry. So if you come in too shallow, you've probably all seen Apollo 13, which is a great movie, right? If you come in too shallow, you literally skip off the atmosphere like a stone skipping off a pond. But unlike a pond, you skip and you don't come back, right? You just bounce off and you're gone, right? So you skip off the Earth and you're like, oh, well, I'm gone. And you don't have enough fuel to, necessarily come back again, right? So if you come in too shallow, you're dead. If you come in too steep, your heat shields aren't going to be able to take the reentry because it's just, you're coming in too hot, right? So you've got to come in at just the right angle. Not too shallow, not too steep, otherwise you're going to burn up. And what they tried with Artemis 1, which was no humans on board, they thought, let's get clever. Let's do a fancy skip. Let's do a skip off the atmosphere and then come back down, just a little skip, like skipping a rock. And let's go up, then go back down again. The idea was it would heat up, then they have a chance to cool down a bit again, and then heat up again. It would turn out it was a terrible idea, because heating and cooling it caused gases to build up and break off chunks of the heat shield. So in this time around, they didn't make any changes to the heat shield design. They said, let's just come straight in, and let's not do this bouncy thing. Let's just try and come in at the right angle, not too shallow, not too steep, and try not to burn up. So if I was an astronaut on that, I would have been kind of nervous. I mean,
I would say so. I'll tell you what, we're just knocking myths out left and right in this, and I appreciate you taking this time with us today. But I got to ask this question. A lot of people, and we all know the controversy, did we actually land on the moon? And in our household, Brandy is, for some reason, and out of all the things she choose, she really she thinks it was just in a studio somewhere, and there was a song out in the 90s that kind of fed her, that. So in your opinion, is there any chance that was staged? I mean, we're right next to Ohio, did Neil Armstrong, did he step on the moon, in your opinion?
I have no reason to believe it was staged. It's actually easier to go to the moon than it is to stage it, I think. I mean,
Neil's in the room. The guy's like this. We're going to fake the moon landing. He's like, no, guys.
No, that's way too hard. Let's just go there.
Let's go.
I mean, they didn't have AI and Sora and stuff back then when they could just fake it. I mean, you could fake it in 5 minutes now, like less than, right? You just easy. It was way beyond our technologies back then to do good faking. So it's just easy to go there. I don't know how to, dissuade people of that. I mean, the Apollo astronauts left behind corner reflectors on the moon. A corner reflector is a really cool thing. It's really easy to make. You can make one for yourself. It's just, you just put mirrors at the corners of a cube. And then if you took a little laser beam and just, you have to be careful, because a corner reflector, doesn't matter what angle you shine in it, it sends the light straight back at you, just the way it bounces around. So it's a really simple, you put a bunch of mirrors at right angles, you shine light in it from any direction, and it comes straight back at you, right? So they put these corner reflectors on the moon, and what we do is we send laser beams, shoot laser beams at the moon, bounce off these corner reflectors and come back. Now, it turns out you need a decent-sized telescope to do that, and a decent-sized laser. There's places in the US where you can go and see this happening. And if you point at the moon, laser beams bounce back off the corner reflectors. But at particular spots in the moon where they were left by the Apollo satellites, astronauts. If you point at somewhere else on the moon, they don't bounce back. And if you point away from the moon, nothing bounces back. So there's something up there that's bouncing off. Now you could say, was it actually the corner reflectors left by the Apollo satellite, astronauts or not? I don't know. But, you can actually do an experiment to see that there are corner reflectors on the moon. They got there somehow.
Neil, if the influencers that try to peddle that information just heard this, they'd be like, man, we just lost our job. I'm going to have to go back and work at the grocery store. This is awful. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
crazy. This is the Mythbusters episode.
This is amazing. Because now when somebody tries to talk me off my ledge, I'm like, no way, bro. Call Neil.
There's a lot of Western Pennsylvania lore that's going to need redone after this episode. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to talk with Brandy about this next time I see her. So.
You will. She's been passionate about this since I met her.
Neil, I have one last question just about probably the myth busting thing, but with time travel and that being popular in Hollywood and everything else, obviously time travel is possible based on some of the Einstein theories, but is there anybody actually working towards the bathtub time machine, or is anybody actually working on like a time machine that has legitimacy that might be used sometime, or is it still kind of so far out there it's like trying to fly to the sun and back?
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone kind of serious. I mean, there are people working on it in their garages. As far as serious people doing it, I mean, there are a lot of serious people who work in the theoretical side of the calculations and seeing is it possible? Could you conceive of such? And so yes, colleagues of mine have worked on this. Like, how would you go about doing something that's would achieve, mostly it's moving forward in time. Backwards is really hard, probably impossible. But forwards in time, like jumping a good amount forward in time, is actually possible. So, yeah, there are things with wormholes, but it turns out that while in principle it seems like if you do time travel and back in time with wormholes, it leads to the wormhole quantum effects that then would destroy the wormhole. So as soon as you tried to go back in time, it would blow up the wormhole, so it wouldn't work. So yeah, I've got colleagues that work on this, and they've actually taken it seriously. In fact, Kip Thorne, one of the people that was part of that Nobel Prize for the discovery of gravitational waves, he also wrote the script for Interstellar. He's worked on time travel and wormholes. Yeah, so serious people have looked at this, but it looks like it's probably not allowed by the laws of physics as we know them to go back in time.
So
Going forward, yes.
Interstellar.
Interstellar's another good man. Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey sold me.
That was good. That was a good one. That was another good movie.
Yeah.
Well, Neil, thank you so much for dispelling and proving myths for us today. That's really funny. You're right. This episode it turned into Mythbusters, But so thank you very much for joining us, for giving us the extra time today. Again,
No problem.
Again, from a dad to a dad, thanks for everything you're doing for Cam out there. We appreciate that big time. We try.
No problem. We
try to return the favor in small doses that we get James. He's a great guy.
Yeah, well, we're Cam fans, so.
Well, thanks a lot, and I hope to see you soon. And but I really appreciate you being a guest on the Checked Out.
No problem. Hey, nice to meet you, Doug.
Hey,
thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.
Genuine PA Skill Games, powered by Pacematic and supported by PA Skill Alliance, are dedicated to fostering growth throughout the Commonwealth. These games have been instrumental in supporting local fraternal orders, fire companies, bars, and retailers by keeping businesses operational, maintaining employment, and funding community projects. With over 5,000 communities across Pennsylvania, it's highly probable that Genuine PA Skill Games are working hard behind the scenes in your area. They ensure the vitality of our main streets, restaurants, bars, and stores. By supporting PASkillAlliance.org, you are investing time in your community, employing your neighbors, and contributing to local nonprofits. Together, we can help keep Main Street open for business.
Welcome back. What a great interview. Renowned astrophysicist and our friend, Neil Cornish. It was amazing. It was amazing, Doug, but also amazing weekly segment that I personally look forward to. Retail stories from around the world.
You know what? I'm excited. We're going to go back to the homeland of Neil, to Australia, to talk about Kmart. It's still kicking like chicken. For those of you who don't know, Kmart, back in 2008, a little tie into Sprankle World, they were also being supplied by Fleming Foods, which is our supplier, who obviously went defunct. We lost that supplier. We had to switch to AWI at the time, but they were the same supplier for Kmart. But back then, they still are. They were in Australia, and West Farmers was the owner or the conglomerate that owned them. And at the time, they had 100,000 items in the aisles. Crazy. But they're seeing their business go to the wayside, margin crushing. There's a race to the bottom. They're trying to be everybody's store, but at the same time, be the cheapest version. And they're running their way into bankruptcy until they decided to hire a fast food guy from Australia's McDonald's, Russo, and to tell you all about it, Ryan?
I mean, they hired Russo, and, being a fast food guy, he was all about efficiency, and he was all about, getting items in, moving them out. And, we know in our world, especially as small grocers, we can't afford to buy in items and have them just sit on the shelf for 8 to 10 months. They gotta be moving through. We gotta be getting turns out of our space. And this guy was the king of making the most out of your box. So then you take this guy that's used to these fast food boxes, and you take that brain and that training and you put it into these massive stores. Hey, the same mindset. All of a sudden you got more turns. All of a sudden you had less waste. All of a sudden, elevates them to the next level.
Sales lift, baby. And to Ryan's point, he took 100,000 items down to 30,000. And then he started to focus on different areas like home goods, which created an awesome opportunity because then they call it the Kmart Moms, were trendsetters. They are the social media goddesses. They got together. They started taking pictures of, hey, put this $15 lamp with this $5 Scandinavian rug. And now all of a sudden we have this awesome living room, right? It's almost like the IKEA effect kind of, but they're taking the same idea. Kmart capitalized on it. And now because of their social media platform, which is the Kmart moms pushing this idea, they're now like, doing billions of dollars in business a year. And now one of Australia's biggest department stores that focuses on home goods and 30,000 obviously very good SKUs.
I mean, what a great plan, man. They're using influencers. They're using homemade influencers, so they're not going out and having to pay them $10 million a shot. I mean, I'm sure they're having to pay them well now that they're established, but they're using these influencers, and they're using visuals. I mean, let's face it, everything you just described, it's great for social media. The pictures for Instagram, especially. Somebody sees it, oh, I gotta have that. It's a call to action. But it's interesting. I'm so glad this is always very interesting to me. I didn't realize Kmart was still rolling. I thought it was done. I mean, Grace, my mother-in-law, she fan of the cast. She was I think a 30-year vet of Kmart, and when they went belly up, her and a lot of the management, a lot of the people that've been with them forever, they lost their life savings, 401ks when they went belly up. But I didn't realize they were still rolling. Maybe Grace needs to talk to Neil. Maybe go down to the land down under. Although she's retired now. I mean, she wouldn't be interested in that.
No,
that's interesting. I didn't know that they were still cranking.
But if you think about it, though, the Kmart at the end was almost a modern Target.
Oh yeah,
right. And like even Walmart to a certain degree, but Walmart got a little weird out of the way. But it's almost like the Target, the modern Target. And it's funny with Lindsay, like she loves going to Target. Like it's as I like call it her Target visit.
Mm-hmm.
But she goes up there, but like to the same point, like even Target has kind of influenced themselves and added more home goods and more influential. Like they have a what's the Joe Gaines lady?
Oh, Joanna Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yes. They have their section in the stores.
Oh, wow.
So they have all these influencers. Now, they didn't do the Kmart, which is cool because it's like, homegrown. They did the more national influencers, but they have different sections based on their looks and their seasonal looks for their stores.
Well, how about that? For everybody that thought Kmart was dead, all you need to do is get a light 22-hour flight to Sydney, and you could go to a Kmart.
It's also not dead, Ryan. Your retail story of the week and your ability to foreshadow the modern time for this situation.
No, I'll tell you, my retail story goes back to literally the day that COVID hit Western PA. I forget the exact date. It was in March because at the time, we were working hard at our social media. We were trying to grow the social media. We were trying to grow store trips and excitement. And we were looking for, we had done giveaways, chairs, beach umbrellas, coolers to try to drive traffic on our social media, try to drive traffic in the store, drive excitement with the giveaways and the gifts. And we had to Save on Me shirts that just come out. And we were just looking to take the brand to the next level and connect with something that we think that our fans would really like as far as prizes. And so you, Dad, and I met with the Pirates, one of their sales reps. We went down. We got the backstage tour of the field and all the facilities and that kind of stuff. Went down on the field, walked the field, and then we were looking at the different options of the tickets that were available and the ticket packages and everything. And we, at the time, we knew that there was, Corona. I think it was Corona at the time. It was called coronavirus. I don't think anybody called it COVID yet. And so I had it without knowing I had it because it was the sickest I'd ever been in my life. I was coaching basketball at the time. I missed 2 or 3 games. And, this was like 2 or 3 weeks prior to this. So we're at this tour. We're all excited, but at the same time, it was a big expense for us. We hadn't taken that kind of expense into tickets and that kind of stuff. But then we were thinking about, we could give them to employees to use. We could use them as giveaways. We could use a couple for our family. So we decided, we were going to think about what we wanted to do. And then at the last second, we decided we're going to do it before we left. And the guy's like, well, we'll see what happens with these first couple games because they didn't know if they were going to cancel games, cancel whatever. And so we decided to get the 4 tickets and this 20-game package, which we still have today. But then we broke away. You went home. You were driving separate. You went home. Dad and I'll never forget, we went to the Ross Park Mall, and the store is not even there anymore, Lucky, and because both of us needed to get jeans. So we went to Lucky to get jeans. Dad's in there. I don't know. He's usually pretty efficient, but he was in there forever trying. I don't know what he was doing, trying on every pair of jeans in the place. I don't know what he was doing. He was in there for a long time. And they had a car parked there, one of those cars. I remember I was leaning over the thing, looking at the car. I get a call on my phone, a text, call right away. It was a Titanic store. Call. Ryan, do you want us to shut down the store? No. Answer's always no on that one. Next. But anyways, whoever it was, and I forget who made the call, but somebody called me. They said, the school has shut down. They're sending kids home. Armstrong's sending kids home. Every school's sending kids home indefinitely. They're shutting down roads. They're shutting down this. They're shutting down buses. They're shutting down all this stuff because of the coronavirus. And I was like, we're not shutting down. I mean, we're going to be safe. We're going to see what the CDC, which, I don't even know if we knew it was CDC at the time. I think we'll see what the authorities have to say about it, and we'll react in a way that protects everybody, and be safe. But at the same time, we have to run a business so that, we could all continue to make a living. And so it's funny now everybody's like, oh, the CDC. Like nobody knew what the CDC was before Corona and before the COVID. Nobody even knew that. Now CDC, everybody knows CDC. But it's funny how times change. But anyways, our tickets that we use today, that we use as giveaways today, just had a winner, app card giveaway winners go to the game, the 10-hour marathon game, extra inning game against the Tampa Bay Rays. But that all stemmed and started the day of COVID. And I'll never forget looking at that car. Dad's in there trying on his 6 pair of jeans. And I get the call. And that was the start of the whole world, our world, Western PA, shutting down. And we all know what happened after that. But that was, I'll never forget, this time of year always reminds me of that, buying those tickets, deciding to make that purchase on those tickets. And it was the day that COVID, Corona hit Western PA.
There were so many crazy stories that happened because of COVID and through COVID. But it's funny because, I don't remember, the store closing or anything, but I was coming back from Florida, the next week. And I came back from Florida, and that's when it got crazy. But, I remember being at the airport, and all of a sudden watching, I'm like, I wonder if that's going to affect us.
Yeah.
And then I was getting ready to buy, people know at this point that was when I was closing the deal for Saxonburg. And so that was kind of scary. I know if I was going to be, open or whatever. It was just, there was a lot going on. Yeah. Crazy times. But because you're a little pirate excursion, you now have tickets and you get to see Paul Skeens pitch.
It is nice. It's taken it took 6 years, but now they have a nice, strong, young team, and they have some stars. So obviously Paul Skeens is the number one guy, but there's some other notable guys, and there's a good team. They're off to a good start. They're in first place in the division, 23, 24 games in. That doesn't happen in these parts.
Well, according to Ari, he said that, Yankees looking forward to it too.
Yeah, I'm sure they are, yeah. But I did find out a fun fact. The Pirates actually have Skeens through 2029 season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're projecting that if he continues on his trajectory, he'll get the biggest contract at that time. It'll be the biggest contract ever. Will be the contract he signs with probably the Yankees after 2029. But we got him for 3 more years, and all the pundits, all the gurus are saying that the Pirates, they have a nice little window here. The next 2-3 years could be 1 or 2 playoff appearances. They're not saying World Series, but just making the playoffs would be cool. And there's tickets. That started during COVID. We get playoff tickets, baby.
Who's the center fielder everybody's talking about?
Oh, that's geez, I would forget his name. I've been to.
Obviously, you really like baseball.
No, I do. I'm drawing a blank.
Is it Corbin or
tall?
something?
He's like 6'7".
Corbin, Colin, or something? I don't know. But
maybe I'm just nervous. I don't know.
Maybe the sugar monster is still eating your
I'm going to
brain.
remember as soon as this cast is over. Yeah, the sugar monster is still eating my brain cells.
Hey, next time you
He's
get,
the leadoff hitter.
I know. Next time you get through that, just give me a call and say, "Hey, I have some ideas. I want to run by you." I'm like this. Sleep on it again, and then we'll talk about it like adults.
Yeah, like I said, I apologize. I probably was a little rash there, but
I like the enthusiasm.
yeah,
It does- all honestly, it does look more realistic. And even in this one, we can see here. Noah cut to the wide shot one more time. The beard looks fake, like he glued it on.
And in all fairness to the original creator, at the time I just had a shadow. Then when I decided I like the beard look, so that doesn't represent a strong beard.
Yeah,
Doesn't represent a strong.
and now you kind of like Ra's al Ghul from Batman.
I like it. It's nice. I think it's good for your face too, having a beard. Because you don't have as much.
How often do you wash it?
Oh, every time I use, maybe this is wrong. I know some people use beard treatment. I use shampoo. I shampoo my hair. I shampoo my beard. I let it all set up while I wash the rest of my body.
Just like Santa Claus.
I do. No, I do. It's like this white, like sudsy situation. But I will say, when I'm done, man, it feels great. And then about once a week, normally right before we shoot the cast, once a week I take the clippers and just give it a nice,
I know.
tighten it up.
I know you can do it in the bathroom. Lindsay has questions. She's like, "What are you doing downstairs?"
I mean, there have been some. I try to leave time, but sometimes, if it's one of those mornings where you have planned to get yourself all ready to go, and you wake up and there's a fire. When I say a fire, down case or somebody calls off or something at one of the stores. You just gotta throw the razor in the bag and roll and hope for the best.
Be cooked.
Yeah, be cooked.
But you know what, Ryan? That's a great story, though. We should touch more on the COVID experience a little bit. Not getting too heavy into it because I don't like talking about too much. But like every once in a while, like I remember the street fights I used to get in with the people at Restaurant Depot.
Hey, you know what? Write that down. Write that down.
I did.
So you have it written down?
Yes,
You have it written down?
it's gonna be my story next week.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Restaurant Depot.
That's a great story. There's all kinds of great stories about COVID that are fun and light now that we can look back on it.
And we went from certifying Angus to whatever was in the shelf, including halal.
Whatever they had, wherever that beef was from, that beef was bought.
Remember the 1 pound?
It was all fine.
It was. We had to do the 1 pound, like only 1 pound ground beef because there was like the hoarder
yeah?
people. They got crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for retail trends.
Well, guys, we're talking about the beef, so we're going to bring the beef. We're going to talk about nutrient density and high protein push in the retail trend of the week, guys. Talking about everything from cheese to cottage cheese to kefir and pasture-raised meats. People are really focusing on as much nutrient density as much as sourcing and everything else. And it's a big deal. I mean, we're seeing with the GLP-1s, people are trying to get more bang for their buck, less calories, and then obviously, better nutrition. It's just a whole it's funny. It's like going back to the old days and going back to, sourcing food and everything else. It's a big deal. And that's why the perimeter, as we call it in the grocery business, that means everything outside of the little, they call center store is a center store. Then you have the perimeter, which is, it's funny, you talk to nutritionists, shop the perimeter, avoid the center of the store, and you'll be healthier. And so, we've really focused on offering deli options, meat options, things of that nature, so that it gets you into the perimeter. And then our goal is obviously to get you to the meat case, get you to the milk case, that cottage cheese, and get, obviously it's kind of cool too. We also have local cottage cheese from Marburger and Gallagher's.
Well, this retail trend bodes well for us. I mean, let's face it, to your point, our plan of attack, our ad, where we focus a lot of our labor, where we focus a lot of our attention as far as upgrading cases and really just focusing on the items and just the overall space in our ad. Produce, meat, deli, bakery. Bakery, you got to throw in for sugar, although as we've learned in this episode, I got to cut back on sugar. But that's the power part, and that's the part that we can be competitive. As small stores, we can be competitive, and we can have pretty similar offerings, and it gives us a great opportunity. And it's very exciting that that's the trend, because the trend is coming into areas that are our strengths, that we can survive and thrive against the big boys. But I have a cheat code after this, Doug. I'm going to tell you about. But while I'm getting my cheat code ready, tell the crowd about the.
Well, guys, also, one of the cool things, too, is local flowers, which is kind of a weird thing. Like, think about local flowers, man. Like, local flowers. Our guy that does our flowers right there in Saxonburg. I mean, he's a great guy right there at Sunshine Greenhouses, does our flowers. And now we have him in all 3 stores. So we can offer him a great price without all the crazy shipping. What cheat code are you working on over there? You're moving to the next thing.
No, it's time for my grocery list.
Oh, okay. Well, you said cheat code. I thought you had a cheat code about like the perimeter.
No,
to be able to shop better.
No, this is my cheat code about the interior. So there's no mystery. The outside, the produce, the meat, especially is where you need to live. If you really want to be healthy, you want to eat fresh, you want to go for longevity, you want to work out, and you want to take advantage of meat and produce and really just focus on that being the core of your sustenance. But
good word.
But one of the cheat codes of the interior of the store that I eat on almost a daily basis, and again, this segment, no sponsorships. This is just stuff I like. And this is something that is a staple on our grocery list. Bran introduced this to the family originally, but it is now, honestly, one of my favorite snacks. And it's very simple. Bang! Cashews. Cashews. Whole cashews. Some people like the halves and pieces. I like the whole cashew.
You've been listening to the trends. And it's private label, baby. IGA.
You can't beat it.
You just save $4.
Literally, you save like $3 or $4 on the same can with the same item in it, same ingredients, same nutritional value.
Well, while we watch Ryan trying to cut himself, we'll start. So basically, they call it the poisonous apple. And in the 1500s, they were native to Brazil. Back in the 1500s, Portuguese explorers discovered the indigenous tribes were roasting the seeds and neutralizing the anacardic acid, a toxic compound similar to poison ivy. Oh my God. That's found in the shell. Realizing that was nutritional and powerhouse, the Portuguese brought it to Goya, India, and stabilized the coastal soils. The climate was just perfect and thrived almost instantaneously.
Wow. In 1905, they tried to bring these babies to the United States. Didn't work out very well because they tried to send them in tea chests. And the tea chests did not mesh well with our little friends, the cashews. And it was like having basically, you were really chancing because it was like the equivalent of like rotten milk.
Oh,
So like, people were eating these things and some not so good things were happening to the digestive system. And so it didn't work out very well first, thankfully.
But as Ryan mows down his cashews over there, it basically kicked off when the General Foods Corporation traveled to India, and by the end of 1941, 20,000 tons of nuts were brought into the United States, cashews, for the U.S. demand annually. And then, as Ryan talks about the tin can there, the original tin can, 1928, was vacuum sealed. And when they basically, that popping noise is because it's pressurized. It prevented the nuts from obviously allowing oxygen, oxidizing, making them go rancid. And it allowed these expensive cashews to be protected by the air.
Right. Nice thing about these babies, a quarter cup, which is a significant amount. That's a significant amount. A quarter cup is a nice portion.
That's a lot of nuts.
It's a lot of nuts. It's a good cup of nuts. and the crazy thing is that's a good portion, only 180 calories, but here's the biggest thing. You got low sodium, you have 5 grams of protein, and you have good amount of dietary fiber and good carbohydrates. I mean, it's just like a cheat code, man. You can just sit and eat, even if you eat a half a cup, which is a lot, you're still at 360 calories. So if you just had a workout or something, and you want to maintain a healthy vibe, and you're sick of eating, cucumbers and ground meat.
Is there any sugar in there? I'm just curious. They put sugar in everything now. It drives me nuts. Like canned goods, there's a lot of like 1 gram of sugar.
No, 1 gram of sugar.
Yeah, they put it in there.
1 gram of sugar and no added sugars.
Oh.
They don't put anything in there.
Ah.
No added sugars. It's just natural, man. Well, I'm telling you, this is the item of the week. Well-deserved item of the week.
Please don't cut yourself. Ryan's fascination with Band-Aid scares me. But 1950s was the last time we saw a major breakthrough. It was when they changed out basically the vacuum sealing to have the carbon dioxide injected, which displaced oxygen and kept the atmospheric pressure to cushion the nuts. So that you get kind of like a tennis ball thing comes from the CO2 inside the can of cashews.
Well, nobody wants a tennis ball to the nuts, I can tell you that much. But it is time for Doug's retail story of the week.
Well, continue with the nut trend. I'm going to talk a little bit about my sushi idea for Saxonburg. So before we had the sushi idea of Saxonburg, I wanted to put it at Leechburg. I thought it'd be a great idea. The problem was the volume of Leechburg and the traffic and the market study really didn't scream, sushi. So when we're doing the Saxonburg location, we had to fill out as much space as humanly possible. And people don't realize is beyond just the fixtures, you have the inventory cost of the store. So the more you can have somebody else pay for the inventory, the better. And the deal at the time with the sushi program was you provide the coolers, the build out, the space, and then the POS tie-in, and then they provide the chef, and then they provide the ingredients to make the sushi and the specialization, which at the time, this is all new to us. We never did a sublease. We never had anything else. And it's funny. I remember building all this and people were like, I was walking people through the store and I'm like, the first thing we're going to lead with is sushi. And they're like, huh? They're like, you realize we're in Western Pennsylvania, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you realize we like potatoes and yams. I'm like, yeah, but you also like craft beer and sushi. And I think it's going to kill it. Like, it's kind of dumb. Because it's funny because the time they were trying to be nice. They're like, this is a great idea, but that's kind of out there. I'm not sure if that's going to work. It's not going to work. Which, shout out to me and the crew and the ideas. We do about double the volume of most stores twice our size. Just as a side note. So we built it out and then became the chef selection. And because the store at Saxonburg, when we opened up, it wasn't it was so scary for a lot of chefs because when people don't realize is these chefs sign on for 4 or 5 years at a time. So Chef Lung, he signed on, I think it's his second renewal. Well, he did the first year, they did a renewal for 5. So he's with us till I don't know, whatever time the Pirates are going to get rid of Skeens. So to that point, so I remember it was funny because we had all these different chefs and they're just kind of opening up. The sales were really good. And then I remember meeting Chef for the first time. He comes in with his wife and they come in and he's like, what do you know about sushi? And I'm like, what do you know about sushi? He's like, well, I've been doing it at Whole Foods for 10 years. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you like sushi? I'm like, I like the little teriyaki and a little bit of, like California roll. And he's like, what about nigiri? And I'm like, what's nigiri? Nigiri, for those who don't know, is like the full fish. It's like the full raw fish. But interesting enough, though, it's not, people think the fish isn't controlled or anything. It comes in at all sushi places frozen. And there's a whole process to it that makes it super safe. So then Chef signs on for a year and, we were back to the sushi. How do we get the sushi to go to the next level? How do we get the sushi to go from just bakery buns to the leader in our store? And then we started buying Chef katana swords because Chef's a great guy. He likes to have fun with us. He likes the social media videos, but he's a skilled chef. The guy knows how to use knives. So we're like, let's get him a katana and start cutting stuff. And that has been nonstop, just so you know, for 5 years, every Wednesday for the last 5 years, Chef has cut something on our social media channel. And because of that, it's one of the most talked about, the 3 big talked about things people talk about, and now is the podcast is the newest thing. But before that, it was Mike the Meat Man's craziness, and it was Chef Lung's cutting stuff on Wednesday. So, it's funny. Not only do we do it there, we do it at the other 2 stores, and we've proven that small stores, if marketed correctly, can operate unique items like sushi.
Whenever you brought the katana wielding sushi guy into the store, I remember even I was like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of investment. I don't know if you're going to sell that much sushi. I knew it was a trendy situation, but I was like, in our rural areas, I just don't know if there's going to be enough action for it. But I think that the key was, just like you said, front and center. having the videos, the weekly videos people can look forward to. What's chef going to cut in half this week? And then you have guys like Matt who bring the energy, and Matt, I mean, just really bring the energy, getting people excited, showing the sushi, showing the guy that makes the sushi with his sword, cutting things in half, some fun to it, make it a front and center. But the placement in the store is important as well. I mean, especially in our small store, especially with people that aren't, at the time, maybe weren't real familiar with sushi. I mean, I'd never eaten sushi until you got sushi in the store. So, having it front and center where people were seeing it, every time they were seeing it, they were seeing other people buying it. I think that was the critical thing. And I got to hand it to you because, I wouldn't have done it. And like I've said it before, when you had the sushi, I was immediately like contingency plan. Okay, well, if it doesn't work, we can do this with it. We can do this with it. But, it has turned into a real like differentiation for us versus the competition. Some competition has it, but they can't get in and out of those stores as easy as they can ours. They can't grab and go. The Sushi Wednesday offering is amazing. They can't see the fun. We have definitely, it's turned into an advantage. And our ad, again, the ad is still the biggest, it's the biggest thing. It's the ad, is how we market. And it's who we are. It shows who we are. And top right, and every single ad on front page is the sushi roll of the month, $5 sushi, and whatever other special. So it's definitely been a huge asset to our store, but it definitely wasn't. I was there a couple of times where I witnessed people like really pressing you not to do it.
Oh no, they got radical.
And honestly, there were some wild things. I witnessed something that it could have been almost like a little bit not very good. Like they were like, oh well, we're not going to eat that kind of food. That's that's below us. I'm thinking, what the heck? What are you talking about? It's good. It's freaking good, man.
It's good for you.
It's
rice and fish.
It's rice. It's
cucumber.
Fish, it's cucumber, and it tastes good. It's light. You can eat a whole roll, and some of them are like less than 200 calories.
Oh no, fish, like nutrient dense.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's all day, man. Sushi all day. So now it's sushi all day. It was like, I don't think we should get sushi. Now it's sushi all day. So
now you have platters.
Yeah. So I got hands off to you. That was a stretch at the time, but I felt good about your stretch because, like I said, there was other things that could be done with it. It was a good space, but now at Katanning and Saxonburg, it's staple, man, and it sets the tone. It's like, whoa, these guys have a sushi chef. That's crazy.
Plus, it's cool because from people's standpoint, the chefs are amazing. They're great people. Chef Long's kid goes to my kids' preschool. They're buddies. It's great. More people in the community. And
from Burma.
From Burma.
And they made the trip.
Myanmar.
Yeah. They made the trip over from Burma. 12-year contracts, getting the best training in the world, Whole Foods. And then after they get done with their thing, they can become free agents. And thankfully, a couple of those free agents made their way to Saxonburg Katanning. And the Katanning chef obviously makes for Leechburg as well.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty wild adventure. We could do a whole story. We need to write that down. Their story. We still. I think we need to interview one of the chefs.
We do. It'd be great.
Yeah, because the story of their trips, their travel from Myanmar, from Burma to now. It's crazy. Exceptional story. I'm writing it down.
Okay. Well, you write that down, guys. It's been a great show. Thank you again, Neil Cornish, world-renowned physicist. I think this week he's in CERN, so thanks again for being on the show. Learned a lot. We promised you a trip to the grocery aisles, to the Cosmos, and we hope delivered. Again, thank you guys for tuning in this week. A lot of cool stuff.
Who would think that, the podcast would develop to where we could connect Philadelphia, Erie, Australia, Montana, and Saxonburg, Katanning, and Leechburg, all in one show. So pretty amazing stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And only on Sprankle's Checked Out podcast can you get the experience of the Corporate Word of the Week, pressing you guys to excellence. And we were always pulling out surprises. Half the time, I don't know what Ryan's going to say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. Things happen. Magic happens. And thank you for sticking around.
And don't forget, guys, We can't do what we do without you, and we need your help. Hit the follow button wherever you're watching this. Hit the follow button for us. It helps us get prizes for our giveaways that we offer. It helps us get bigger and better prizes. It helps us to be able to keep on speaking into the microphones every single week and sharing our insights with you. So keep on liking and sharing. We appreciate that. Keep on following and subscribing.
And like the astronaut needs a spaceship, Pennsylvania and the Commonwealth needs a great partner and great industry like Genuine Pennsylvania Skill Games, powered by Pacematic and supported by PASkillalliance.org. For more information, check them out, guys, at PASkillalliance.org.
And remember, guys, it's skill.
Not luck, baby.
Well, thanks for all the support out there. Thanks for watching. We're looking forward to episode 24. We can't do what we do without you.
Come and see us. Well, guys, you're not going to need sugar monsters for our next guest. Renowned astrophysicist Neil Cornish is going to take us to the cosmos and back and help with Mythbust. Why can't I say Mythbust? Mythbust.
Somebody needs to cut that one for sure. All right, take 4.
Okay, we're ready. Okay.